I can handle pressure. I can accept any bad outcome. Just tell me, I can take it. In the end, it was Zara Sinclair who told her. The doctor said it doesn't look good. Grandma would nodded silently. She had already braced herself on the way over, anticipating the worst. If the news had been good, they wouldn't have troubled an old woman like her. Let's leave it to fate. Zara Sinclair had signed the critical condition notice as soon as she arrived. Grandmother and granddaughter sat on the chairs outside the operating room, watching the red light above the door. The surgery lasted 2 hours. When the doctor came out, Butler Harrison was the first to approach him. "Doctor, how is our boss now?" The doctor gave some official-sounding statements, covering the patient's physical condition, his illness, and the dangers posed by the head trauma. It all boiled down to one thing. "We've done everything we could." The doctors could do no more in this situation. Pulling him back, even barely breathing, was already a miracle. The remaining time was left to the family. Mr. Sinclair was wheeled out and taken to a room. His bedside was crowded with various machines connected to his body, the monitors showing just how fragile he was. The man who had been so full of life just that morning was now fading away. Zara Sinclair stood in the doorway, leaning against the wall. Honestly, she didn't feel much deep affection for Mr. Sinclair, but seeing him like this left a sudden emptiness inside her. She didn't know what to do, her mind suddenly lost in a fog, her usually sharp thinking dulled. Grandma Wood, her legs stiff, remained seated, watching Mr. Sinclair's face. Affected by the anesthesia, when Mr. Sinclair woke up, he didn't know where he was, thinking he was still dreaming. His body was too weak, draining his energy. He drifted between consciousness and sleep until nightfall outside. Then, barely hanging on, he opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Grandma Wood sitting before him. "Mom." He just had many dreams. They say that before dying, your life flashes before your eyes, your brain frantically recalling memories. He thought the deepest memories would be from the last few days. After all, pain leaves a stronger mark than happiness. But unexpectedly, what his mind replayed over and over were scenes from when he was 6 years old. Back then, the three of them were a happy family. He was sitting on his father's shoulders, flying a kite, looking up at the sky, never worrying about losing balance because his dad held him tight, never afraid of falling because his dad would surely catch him. When danger loomed, his father was his greatest safety. In the dream, his father stood before him and said, "Time flies, doesn't it? You're a father yourself now. Are you satisfied with the man you've become?" Mr. Sinclair looked at Grandma Wood and managed another weak cry, "Mom." The sound was rough, scraped raw from his throat. "You knew Serena Sinclair wasn't my child, but you never told me anything. You watched me dote on that bastard child more and more. Were you trying to get back at me? Even if you weren't thinking of me, you should have thought of Zara Sinclair. Because I favored Serena, I neglected Zara again and again." Mr. Sinclair's eyes were bloodshot, his pupils clouded as if by mist. "Your favoritism is your problem to examine. You should ask yourself why you couldn't treat them equally. You spoiled Serena Sinclair, but you never truly taught her. She lacks even basic manners and morals. Isn't that your failure?" Grandma would pause briefly, then her tone shifted. "Or perhaps it was deliberate. Did you intentionally ruin her? Gave her money and status, but denied her knowledge and upbringing? Assigned her the easiest jobs, making things seem smooth while stunting her growth, leaving her with ambition but no ability? Were you doing all that just so you could bring your illegitimate child back?" Grandma Wood countered. "Now that you know Serena isn't yours, will you suddenly start treating Zara Sinclair properly? No, you won't. You'll transfer your hatred for Victoria's song onto Zara Sinclair. You've never been able to tolerate imperfection. You treat Zara's good qualities differently, but if someone else's mistake involves her, you blame her too. Arthur Sinclair, I know you too well. You failed as a son, and you're unfit to be a father. You asked why we didn't tell you? After your vasectomy, you returned to the family. You and Victoria's song were so loving, so much so that everyone thought the prodigal son had returned, that Serena Sinclair was the proof of your love. How could your father bring it up? If he had told you Serena wasn't yours, that you'd had a vasectomy, that you'd been cuckolded, wouldn't you have become even worse? Once you recovered, bringing back one illegitimate child after another? You have a history, Arthur Sinclair. Your constant favoritism towards Serena hurt your father the most. How many times did we talk to you about it? Did you ever change? Ultimately, even without Serena, there would have been someone else, just as he neglected Serena for his illegitimate child outside. Why did your father die so young? Because he felt guilty towards Zara Sinclair, because he felt he hadn't raised you properly. He spent those last years regretting, not knowing how to change things, and finally died, consumed by depression. It was a painful death. Arthur Sinclair had worked himself to the bone for this family for decades, pouring all his energy into it. He constantly weighed pros and cons, trying to make rational judgments, searching for a perfect solution. But there are no perfect solutions in this world. Instead, his indecisiveness brought pain to others. He was consumed by self-blame, which ultimately crushed him. But looking at it now, at least for Zara Sinclair, the outcome wasn't bad. She successfully took control of the Sinclair family. Under Grandma Wood's care, she suffered no grievances and grew up exceptionally well, staying on the right path. Serena Sinclair received her parents' love, but the love Zara received was no less. Most importantly, Zara was satisfied with her current life. Grandma Wood said a lot in one breath. Mr. Sinclair was breathing shallowly, more air going out than in. He stared blankly at the ceiling, his eyes like spilled black ink, pupils slowly dilating. The sounds from the medical equipment were grating, the lines on the monitor looking ready to flatten at any moment. After speaking, Grandma Wood quietly watched him. After some time, Mr. Sinclair finally spoke, "Mom, before Dad died, did he hate me very much?" Grandma Wood looked at his pale face. When a person is dying, there isn't much room for strong emotions. More than hate, I think he blamed himself for not being a good father and regretted not being able to live longer. Warmth spread from the corners of Mr. Sinclair's eyes, and tears rolled down his cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." What pained him most was that he hadn't even seen his father one last time. Only now did he understand how difficult it was to be a father, and only now did he experience the pain his father must have felt at death's door. True empathy is impossible unless you've lived through the same thing yourself. Mr. Sinclair turned his head to look at Grandma Wood. A faint light flickered in his previously clouded eyes. He managed a weak smile, his voice frail and broken. "Mom, I really want to hear you sing. Do you remember? The song you used to sing to lull me to sleep when I was little. See, could you sing it for me one more time?" He looked terrified she might refuse, his eyes holding a pitiful plea, just like when he was a child nestled in her arms. In that moment, Grandma Wood saw him not as the president, not as the failed father and husband, but as the person she knew best from her memories, Arthur Sinclair, her son. A sharp pain pierced her heart. Grandma Wood abruptly stood up. Arthur Sinclair thought she was leaving, and his eyes instantly dimmed. But the next moment, he watched his mother sit down beside his bed, humming a song in a raspy voice. "On the high green mountain, the daylilies bloom. Pick one for my little girl, pin it in your hair." The reel of memories before death began to play again. He remembered not liking this song much back then, because it was a song his mother sang for a daughter. "Mom, I don't want to hear this song anymore. You always sing it to me. Do you wish I were a girl?" "Well, would you rather be a boy or a girl?" "A boy, of course." "Why is that?" Facing his mother's question, he raised a small fist and said, "Because boys are strong and can protect Mom." His mother smiled gently. "You must also protect girls like Mom, make sure they don't get hurt." Little him patted his chest, making a promise. But what had he done once he grew up? He ignored his mother when she was hospitalized, brought other women home to provoke her. His affairs drove his wife to depression. He kept a string of mistresses, watched them fall for him only to curse him to never find true love. And he had hurt his only daughter. At the far edge of the sky, the daylilies bloom, each flower a reflection of my longing. Let them bloom all along the path where I wait for your return, as if I never left your side. In his memory, his mother hummed this song while knitting him a sweater. The long knitting needles danced in the air like magic wands, turning ordinary yarn into blooming flowers in her hands. He would always lean in close to watch, and his mother would push him away gently. "Don't get too close, you'll poke your head." Her tone was feigning annoyance, but her eyes were soft. Time flowed, shifting through different periods, until finally, he returned from the past to the present. Arthur Sinclair squinted at the old woman before him. The mother in his memories and the mother before him now slowly overlapped. One was young and beautiful with a head full of black hair. The other was aged, her hair white, her face etched with wrinkles. He remembered his mother's hands were beautiful. His father hadn't even wanted her to do chores like washing dishes. But now, those hands are like water-soaked paper talismans, wrinkled and clinging to the bone. Her eyes weren't bright anymore. The whites were cloudy, the pupils dull. The song was short, finished in less than a minute. Arthur Sinclair suddenly seemed more alert. "Mom, sing another one. Sing, my baby. You're quite demanding." Just like back then, her tone feigned annoyance, but her gaze was gentle. Arthur Sinclair's lips twitched slightly, attempting a smile, but his body was too weak, making the effort strained and unnatural. In a trembling whisper that sounded like it could break off at any moment, he said, "After all, I won't be able to hear it anymore." A lump formed in Grandma Wood's throat. She fought back the sudden sting in her nose and began to sing, "My baby, baby, give you something sweet so you can sleep well tonight. Mom, can you hold me again? Asterisk, I want to remember the warmth of your embrace." Asterisk. His breathing grew fainter, his body colder. As he neared the end, he was gathered into a warm embrace. The air no longer smelled of disinfectant, but rather like sun-dried linens. Warm, comforting, filling the emptiness in his heart bit by bit. My little imp, teasing your eyes and brows, to make you love this world. My little imp, pinching your little cheek, to make you love all tomorrows. Just like when he was little, his mother sang this song while teasing his eyebrows and pinching his cheek. He would cling to his mother, wanting to be held, and she would carry him on her back while doing chores. He slept soundly on her back, drifting from one sweet dream to another. He dreamed of running in grassy fields, riding on his father's shoulders, hearing his mother softly scolding his father to be careful not to drop him, dreaming of the family photo he had left forgotten in a corner. How happy he had been then. Waking up to find his mother still working, he would rub his sleepy eyes and say, "Mom, you carry me now, but when I grow up, I'll carry you." His mother would smile brightly. "Then you must eat well and grow up quickly." His mother hadn't sung these two songs in a very long time. Yet after all these years, she still remembered the lyrics. How disappointed must a mother who loved him so much have been, to watch him go wrong again and again. HHH. Arthur Sinclair suddenly gasped, his breath rattling like a broken bellows. He grasped his mother's hand. "Mom, I'm sorry. I grew up, but I never carried you." He strained, using all his remaining strength, to find Zara Sinclair, finally spotting her back near the doorway. "I'm sorry, Zara. I wasn't a good father." He had chosen the name Zara Sinclair. Many didn't understand it, thinking it too common, too plain, even unpleasant to say. What was so great about a gardenia? A wildflower from the mountains, its fragrance sharp, almost pungent, its character not considered refined. There's a passage describing the gardenia. The gardenia is bold and large, its fragrance so strong it cannot be brushed away. Thus it is disdained by scholars and sophisticates, deemed lacking in refined character. The gardenia says, "To hell with them. I'll be fragrant just like this, fragrant with abandon. What business is it of theirs?" He hoped Zara Sinclair could also live freely with abandon. "All my assets go to Zara Sinclair. May she live like the gardenia, freely and fully." Arthur Sinclair held on, delivering his last words. After saying this, his eyes slowly closed. The monitor beside him emitted a sharp, piercing sound. The undulating lines vanished along with his life. Grandma had sat on the bed, holding Arthur Sinclair, gently patting his back, stroking his still warm face. With his eyes closed, he looked as if he were merely asleep. "My baby, give you something sweet so you can sleep well tonight." Her voice choked, the song losing its tune. She wanted to finish, but her throat felt blocked by a sharp stone, silencing her. Grandma would bowed her head as tears streamed down, wetting Arthur Sinclair's face. She tried to wipe them away, but more kept falling. Though she often spoke dismissively of her son, seeing Arthur Sinclair truly die before her brought a sudden, overwhelming wave of loss and grief. Grandma would held him tightly, her entire body trembling. "If there is reincarnation, if you have another life, I hope you will be a kind person." Zara Sinclair stood at the door of the hospital room, Ethan Young beside her. He didn't speak, just squeezed her hand. She could hear everything happening inside the room. Grandma Wood singing and Arthur Sinclair's deathbed confession. Everyone makes mistakes in life, big or small. But does a confession at the brink of death truly matter? Zara Sinclair didn't have forgiveness in her heart, only acceptance. Zara Sinclair looked back at the man on the bed. She had called him Dad for 28 years. No matter how grave his mistakes, he was still her father. Now, he had left this world forever. After Arthur Sinclair died, he was sent to the crematorium that very night. Such a large man went in, and came out as a pile of ash mixed with bone, small enough to fit in a little box. Ethan Young took on the heavy responsibility of helping Grandma would handle Arthur Sinclair's affairs, while Zara Sinclair took a car to the Sinclair family home. In the early morning hours, the lights in the villa were still on. Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair and Serena Sinclair sat on the sofa, watched by several bodyguards, unable to go anywhere or even sleep, just waiting for Zara Sinclair to return. So what if Zara Sinclair came back? Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair had prepared their story. Everyone had seen Arthur Sinclair hitting her these past few days. Domestic violence, mutual fighting, bruises, and blood were normal. She was black and blue all over. When Arthur Sinclair choked her, it felt like he was trying to kill her. She had grabbed a table lamp and hit him in self-defense, not intending to injure him. Later, less than 15 minutes after she left the study, the butler discovered Arthur Sinclair and rushed him to the hospital. Though she'd muttered being widowed is better than divorce, the thought that she might have actually killed Arthur Sinclair brought a sudden, inexplicable panic. Whenever Mrs. Sinclair thought about it, she couldn't help but bite her fingers, gnawing until they were red without letting go. Finally, Serena Sinclair beside her pulled her hand away. "Serena, do you think he'll be okay?" Serena Sinclair shook her head. She had glanced in when Arthur Sinclair collapsed. There was a lot of blood. For someone with high blood pressure, that was easily fatal, especially considering the delay in getting medical attention. Serena Sinclair didn't speak, but her eyes warned Mrs. Sinclair not to panic and mess things up. Whatever happened to Arthur Sinclair, they had to stick to the story. It was self-defense. She hadn't intentionally harmed him, nor had she left him to die. There were no security cameras in the study, and no one saw what happened. It was their word against nothing. Mrs. Sinclair felt deeply unsettled. Just then, Zara Sinclair returned, bringing a chill with her. Everyone looked at her. Facing her eldest daughter, Mrs. Sinclair felt an inexplicable fear. It was quiet, the only sound her shoes clicking on the floor, each step echoing like it was crushing a skull. Zara Sinclair stopped in front of Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair. "He's dead." Mrs. Sinclair's expression froze, her face paling instantly. The panic in her eyes was impossible to hide, her thumb nervously rubbing the back of her hand, a clear sign of guilt. Mrs. Sinclair said, "He died because he was sick. What does that have to do with me? He was beaten to death." The diagnosis confirmed the wound on his head was fatal. If he had received medication and been taken to the hospital promptly, he wouldn't have died. "Are you blaming his death on me?" Mrs. Sinclair's body trembled, her voice becoming shrill. "Look at these injuries. Ever since he came home, he beat me every day. My face is still swollen. On my neck, my arms, my legs." With each location, Mrs. Sinclair pointed it out to Zara Sinclair. Then she frantically listed Arthur Sinclair's abuses. This was domestic violence. "I hit him, yes, but I was just trying to fight back. I was defending myself. If I hadn't, I would be the one dead. I never thought he would die. He was choking me. I grabbed the nearest thing and threw it at him. I never meant to hurt him that badly." Zara Sinclair asked, "Since you hurt him, why didn't you call someone to take him to the hospital? It's normal to get hurt when couples fight. When he beat me until my nose bled and I couldn't move on the floor, did he send me to the hospital? Besides, he was fine when I left the study. He yelled at me to get out. How was I supposed to know he was so fragile?" At this, Mrs. Sinclair twisted her lips into an ugly smile. "If you don't believe me, you can ask Serena Sinclair." She happened to be passing by the door. Zara Sinclair looked at Serena Sinclair. Serena Sinclair frowned slightly. "You fear incompetent teammates more than capable enemies. Why drag her into this when it had nothing to do with her?" "I'm not entirely sure," Serena Sinclair said. "The door was closed, and the study is soundproof. I only heard Dad's voice when the door opened briefly. He sounded quite normal. I don't think Mom is lying. Dad's abuse towards her wasn't just a recent thing. Everyone in the house can testify to that. While Dad's passing deeply saddens me, I also know Mom didn't mean for it to happen. She didn't intentionally injure him, let alone think of killing him. Although she spoke of resenting Dad, deep down, she still loved him and couldn't let him go." As she spoke, Serena Sinclair shed a few appropriate tears. "The police will be here soon. Are you going to tell them the same thing?" Zara Sinclair asked. Mrs. Sinclair shot up from the sofa, screeching, "You call the police?" Zara Sinclair glanced at her watch, calculating. "Yes, they should be here in about 5 minutes. I'm your mother." Zara Sinclair looked up at her. "Is that important?" Someone had died in the house, and they actually thought they could cover it up. What were they thinking? Mrs. Sinclair tried to reason with her. "Sinclair Group stock has dropped so much recently. Making a big deal out of this won't benefit the family. Your father is already dead, and you can't bring him back. We should arrange his funeral as soon as possible. Arrange the funeral, then divide the inheritance." Zara Sinclair saw the thought flicker across her face, but said nothing, merely fixing her with an icy stare. Mrs. Sinclair was startled by her gaze. "What kind of look is that?" Zara Sinclair let out a cold laugh. The kind you give someone who's already dead. The next second, there was commotion outside. The butler brought the police in. Facing the police, Mrs. Sinclair was even more nervous than expected, swallowing hard, forcing herself to appear calm as she repeated her earlier story to the officers. The crime scene had been well preserved. A group went upstairs. As Mrs. Sinclair had said, there were no cameras in the study. Without solid evidence, she might actually get away with it. Zara Sinclair entered the study and walked straight to the computer. Mrs. Sinclair yelled from behind. Zara Sinclair, what are you doing in there? This has nothing to do with you. Looking for cameras. There are no cameras in the study. Mrs. Sinclair knew this because she had disabled the visible one beforehand. Zara Sinclair carefully examined the area around the computer desk, finally finding a hidden camera on a nearby decorative object. Besides that one, there were others hidden in the air conditioning unit, the computer tower, and even power outlets, providing comprehensive surveillance. Zara Sinclair turned on the computer, pulled up the feeds from these cameras, and showed them to the police. Is this footage enough to convict her? There was one obvious camera in the study, but it was just a decoy. Mrs. Sinclair had been married into the family for years and never knew. How did Zara Sinclair find out? How did you know there would be cameras in these places? Zara Sinclair looked at her and, for some reason, suddenly smiled. Because Grandpa taught me. Arthur Sinclair was cautious, habitually installing hidden cameras in important places like his office and study. Besides cameras, he also had a habit of recording his phone calls and always carried a recording pen. When Zara Sinclair was very young, Arthur Sinclair had warned her, having learned his lesson the hard way, hoping his descendants wouldn't suffer the same fate. Arthur Sinclair, the son he raised, was naturally no exception. Mrs. Sinclair's lips turned deathly pale, her expression vacant, her consciousness slowly sinking into a silent despair. Though Arthur Sinclair spoke of hatred, his father's words had become deeply ingrained, almost habitual, under his upbringing. It was a subtle transformation he perhaps hadn't even noticed himself. Upon receiving the surveillance footage, the police arrested Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair and Serena Sinclair that same night. The video clearly showed Mrs. Sinclair fixating on the table lamp the moment she and her husband entered the room, the lamp she had intentionally placed there earlier. Reviewing footage from 2 days prior revealed Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair sneaking into the study to cut the surveillance camera wires. This proved it wasn't accidental death, but premeditated murder. They chose the study because it was soundproof enough to prevent anyone outside from hearing or interrupting. While Arthur was in the study, Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair deliberately entered to provoke him, leading to a physical altercation. Amidst the chaos, they seized the opportune moment to grab the lamp and strike Arthur hard on the head. Afterward, Mrs. Sinclair even stepped on his wound while continuing to verbally taunt him. Later, Serena appeared at the doorway. Comparing several camera angles confirmed she saw Arthur, contradicting her claims of seeing and hearing nothing. During the interrogation, faced with the police's questions, Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair demanded a lawyer. Their statements weren't entirely baseless. The domestic violence was real, as were Mrs. Sinclair's injuries. During the argument, Arthur had indeed choked her in a fit of rage, leaving clearly visible bruises on her neck that could easily have been fatal. With their lawyer's defense, Mrs. Sinclair avoided the death penalty and was sentenced to 18 years in prison. At 50 years old, she would be 68 upon release. Whether a pampered socialite accustomed to privilege could emerge unscathed from prison was anyone's guess. When the sentence was handed down, Mrs. Sinclair frantically demanded answers. Arresting me is one thing, but why take Serena? What does she have to do with this? She didn't know anything. I'm her mother. Why would she do this to me? Couldn't she just turn a blind eye? She just wanted to use Arthur's death to get back at us. Arthur didn't deserve to be a father. He was so cruel to Zara. The officer guarding her interjected. You know her father treated her badly. So what did you do? Were you good to her? You're going to prison because you broke the law? What does that have to do with her? She merely provided evidence. Even without her, you couldn't escape the consequences. Justice has long arms. These few questions made Mrs. Sinclair's face turn instantly ashen. It was obvious to others, yet she couldn't see it. Yes, was she good to Zara? She treated Zara terribly, even worse than Arthur had. How could she forget? When she was pregnant with Zara, she had been full of hope for the child, wishing her peace, health, and happiness. She talked to her belly, told her stories, played music. Then the child was born. She grew to hate her cries, despised those dark eyes identical to Arthur's. Her hope for Zara's health turned into a hatred so intense she almost wished her harm. She herself became increasingly ugly, blaming the child for her own descent. She did feel guilty about this child, but she had mistakenly transferred that guilt onto Serena. Zara once asked her, "Mommy, why don't you like me?" Her reply was, "Can't you figure out the reason yourself? You're both my daughters. Why do I like Serena and not you?" Even as she said it, she knew better than anyone that Zara was innocent. As for the reason, even she couldn't articulate it. She simply didn't love her. The complexity of human nature was starkly evident in Mrs. Sinclair. As for Serena, children have a legal duty to aid their parents. Failure to rescue is against the law. Combined with perjury, this sealed her fate as an accomplice. Serena argued indignantly. "I'm not even his biological daughter. How am I his child? I just glanced at him from the doorway. I didn't know it was that serious. But did you know he had high blood pressure? While you and your mother were enjoying afternoon tea, did you spare him a thought? As for being father and daughter, although not related by blood, they were legally recognized as such, sharing the same household registration. Since she enjoyed the privileges of that status, she also had to bear the responsibilities. Trying to shrug off the connection when trouble arose wasn't so simple. The final verdict came. Serena Sinclair was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Before Serena went to prison, Zara visited her. They faced each other, separated by a partition. Under the stark lights, Serena's pupils looked like two black stones, empty and still, like the mouth of a desolate cave. Her expression was numb, her lips pressed into a hard line. Her hair had been cut short, and she wore a blue prison uniform. Her once radiant complexion had dulled rapidly. The dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't been sleeping well. Upon seeing Zara, her eyes seemed stung, instantly turning bloodshot. Isn't the world better off with someone like him dead? He wasn't good to you anyway. He only handed the Sinclair family over to you because of blood ties. Do you really need to come after us for his sake? Serena resented Arthur. Because of him, she was going to prison, so she refused even to call him father. It seems you still haven't recognized the mistakes you've made, Zara said calmly. Serena stared back, eyes blazing. What mistake? Did I ask to be an illegitimate child? Did anyone ask my permission before I was born? I tried so hard. Just because I wasn't his daughter, he kicked me, hit me, completely disregarding our 20-plus years of history. Zara countered. And did you show any consideration when he was lying on the floor begging you for help? Did you think about saving him? Did you hesitate even for a second? He's been dead for days now. Don't you feel guilty? Aren't you afraid when you wake up in the middle of the night? An image of Arthur lying in a pool of blood flashed through Serena's mind. Her heart plummeted, and her stomach clenched as she gritted her teeth. She instinctively took a step back. Why should I feel guilty or afraid? He brought it all on himself. He never loved me. He was only nice to me to pave the way for his other illegitimate child. He was grooming me just to use me as a stepping stone. Zara scoffed. You were given the resources, but you didn't have the drive. Now you blame others for treating you like a stepping stone? Serena, touch your heart and ask yourself honestly, was he really not good enough to you? You enjoyed the privileges, so you have to bear the corresponding responsibilities. Wanting all the benefits without any of the costs. Where in the world do you find a deal like that? Serena shrieked. I don't want to hear your lecture. Who do you think you are? You got everything you wanted, and I lost everything. We have the same mother. Why can't I measure up to you in anything? I hated you from the first moment I saw you. Zara replied. You're the one who insists on comparing yourself to me. You're always watching me, thinking what I have is better, forgetting to appreciate the good things around you, your parents, your friends, and Ethan Young. You knew him 5 years before I did, but what did you do in those 5 years? If you had offered him a helping hand instead of kicking him when he was down, you wouldn't be here right now. You saw Ethan's potential. You work in film, you saw his talent, but you trapped him for your own selfish reasons. You actually could have beaten me for once, but you destroyed yourself. At the mention of Ethan Young, Serena reacted even more strongly, her tear-filled eyes brimming with jealousy. If it weren't for me, would you have gotten such a great Ethan Young? You should thank me for training him for 5 years. How shameless could she be to say something like that? Zara's expression, initially calm, darkened. A wave of frustration welled up in her chest. If not for the partition between them, she might have struck her. He would be great with or without you because he's inherently a good person. I'm just grateful his willpower is strong. If he were even slightly weaker, I wouldn't have met the man he is today. And you want me to thank you? I ache for Ethan's past. The fact that I haven't destroyed you already is restraint enough. Serena still didn't think she had done anything wrong. There was nothing more to say to someone like her. Here, the law would teach her how to be a person again. Didn't she like violence? The people in prison would be far more violent than her. A pampered young lady whose idea of a fight was limited to slapping and hair-pulling. The people she'd be locked up with might be the very ones she usually scorned and dismissed. If she didn't curb her temper, she would be the one to suffer. It's human nature to be stubborn until faced with undeniable reality. People don't learn from words. They learn from hard experience. Those who can learn from one mistake are wise. But fools like Serena Sinclair seem boundless in their stupidity. Even 10 setbacks wouldn't teach her a single lesson. In life, Arthur Sinclair hadn't had many friends, so his funeral was a simple affair. Most attendees were business partners, nominally there to pay respects, but truly present to make an appearance, gauge Zara Sinclair's competence, and scout for potential collaborations. News of Arthur Sinclair's death quickly hit the trending topics online. A wave of shock spread, accompanied by a swift shift in tone and commentary. Wow, didn't expect him to actually die. So sudden. Mr. Sinclair might not have been a great dad, but he was a hell of a businessman. The Sinclair Group never faltered under his management. He was a decent dad, too. Look how well Serena Sinclair lived. If he's rich in his next life, I want to be his son. Respect the dead, but compared to Mr. Sinclair, I think his wife is pretty disgusting, too. What's the big deal about Mr. Sinclair? So he liked women. It's a moral issue, not illegal. He earned so much money for his family, supported everyone. He did all right. He kicked someone until they miscarried. And that's not illegal? If you ask me, don't his parents bear some responsibility for how Mr. Sinclair turned out? It must be how he was raised. Mr. Sinclair did a lot of charity work over the years. Let's mourn him. Posting 3 flowers. Was he the only one at fault? Weren't his daughter, wife, and parents also wrong somehow? He's dead now, stop bashing him. Mr. Sinclair's whole life. Didn't expect him to die because of a woman. Serves him right. If he just lived honestly, things wouldn't have ended up like this. Grandma would brought Arthur Sinclair's ashes back to the family estate, where he was laid to rest on a shared hillside plot. There were still many affairs to manage, like settling the estate and completing the necessary paperwork. Once the inheritance was handled, they sorted through his personal effects, keeping the useful items, giving away the rest, and burning some. A life extinguished is like a snuffed-out candle. We spend our lives striving, only to depart gently. A tombstone, bearing just a name, dates of birth and death, and perhaps a brief epitaph, encapsulates an entire existence. The photograph chosen for his headstone came from an old interview. Arthur Sinclair, dressed impeccably in a suit, hair slicked back, eyes sharp and full of life. He looked so spirited, so handsome. That was him at 40, at his peak. Since they were already at the estate, Grandma would took Ethan Young and Zara Sinclair to Arthur Sinclair's grave. Weeds had sprouted around the site. Ethan rolled up his sleeves and started pulling them. Grandma would wipe the dust from the headstone with her handkerchief. I meant to visit on Memorial Day, Arthur, but here I am early. Your son's down there with you now. He probably feels out of place. Be a father and show him the ropes. He admitted he was wrong. Whether you forgive him is up to you, but Grandma would pause, then chuckled softly. Knowing you, you probably will. Arthur Sinclair died in his 60th year. By then, his hair was completely white, making him look more like 70 or 80. There had been signs before the end. He'd run his fingers through his white hair and said, Grandma would, before I go, could you dye my hair black? Just so I look a bit younger. Grandma would roll her eyes. Does it matter if your hair's black when you're dead? Of course I care. What if everyone at my funeral sees this white hair and thinks I wasn't good enough for you? That I was robbing the cradle? I'm only 6 years older than you. How did I end up looking so much older? Grandma would gently stroke his hair. It's all right. We could just shave your head. Then no one will see any white hair. But when I look bad bald, you look handsome no matter what. If you really hate it, we can get you a wig. No, that won't do. I'll just dye it. Maybe bleach it blonde. I've never dyed my hair in my life. After I'm gone, make sure the photo on my headstone is one from when I was young and handsome. Actually, I'll pick it myself. Arthur Sinclair clamored for his wife to bring the photo albums. After browsing, he settled on their wedding picture. Pointing, he said, This one's perfect. Just crop me out for the headstone. Wait, is using a photo of us together bad luck? Maybe I should find a different one. She pressed her finger on the photo, making the decision. Let's use this one. When my time comes, I'll use it too. We'll be buried side by side, and our headstones together will make it a portrait of us. He chuckled, all right, but talk of burial sparked his curiosity again. Do you think cremation hurts? Does the body still feel anything? Do we have souls after we die? If we do, where do they go? When do we get reincarnated? He became a fountain of questions, one tumbling after another. Grandma didn't seem annoyed. She listened patiently, offering quiet responses now and then. The two of them discussed life and death as casually as if commenting on the weather. I'll go first and find out, he'd said. If we really do have souls, I'll find a way to visit your dreams and give you the answers. In the years since, she had indeed dreamed of her husband many times. But in those dreams, he only ever watched her quietly, never uttering a word. So, does cremation hurt? Did you reincarnate? What have you become now? Arthur Sinclair never did dye his hair blonde. He died on a completely ordinary day, lying in his hospital bed, clutching their wedding photograph as he closed his eyes forever. When Arthur Sinclair used to ramble on, Grandma found him long-winded, but now that he was gone, she wasn't used to the sudden quiet. She'd unconsciously talked to herself, seeking his opinion on things, wanting to share with him, but whenever she spoke, there was no reply. Even his phone card had been deactivated by the staff. People tend to reminisce as they get older, entertaining all sorts of what-ifs. What would things be like if he hadn't died? If he were still here now? Grandma stood by the grave, taking out a lighter to light the incense and paper money. Her hands weren't as steady as they used to be, and she struggled to light it after several tries. Ethan Young saw this, wiped his hands, and said, "Grandma, let me." Grandma handed him the lighter. "Go ahead." Ethan Young knelt down to light the offerings, glancing at the photo on the tombstone. It showed Arthur Sinclair at 20, remarkably handsome, his vibrant spirit shining through even in black and white. "Old man," Grandma said, "the one burning this money for you is your granddaughter's husband. This is the first time I brought him to see you. Take a good look at his face and watch over him down there. Keep him safe, successful, and healthy." Grandma hadn't believed in superstitions or spirits before, but after losing loved ones, she started to. She hoped there really were ghosts, so she could see the person she missed so dearly. Her eyes stung by the wind. Grandma watch the blue smoke rise. "Zara, bring the takeout over." The takeout container held dumplings Grandma had made herself. These dumplings had been Arthur Sinclair's favorite food when he was alive. Before he died, he had gripped her hand tightly and said, "Grandma when I'm gone, make sure my offerings include your dumplings. The sauerkraut and pork ones, and maybe some leek and pork too. Just don't put any garlic in the filling. I hear garlic scares ghosts away." He didn't want to see her sad. Even when he was dying, he was trying to make her laugh. Grandma looked up at the sky. The weather today was just like the day he passed, clear and cloudless. He had been lying in the hospital bed, saying, "I can't bear to leave you," one second, and the next his eyes closed and no amount of calling could wake him. Grandma and Arthur Sinclair had met through matchmaking. Back then, a man and woman might meet once, decide they were a match, and then get married under their parents' arrangements, almost in a daze. In modern terms, you could say they married first and fell in love later. Time reveals a person's heart, and feelings grew over time, quite literally in some ways. Before long, she was pregnant. The delivery was difficult. It took a tremendous effort to give birth. She heard from the nurse at the time that he was outside, kneeling and crying so loudly it was embarrassing. Not long after the baby was born, Arthur Sinclair had a vasectomy. They couldn't afford a nurse back then, so he took care of the baby most of the time, changing diapers, bathing him, holding him in the sun, rocking him to sleep. If men could produce milk, he probably would have done the feeding too. Looking at the photo on the tombstone inevitably brought back memories. He'd hold the baby with a goofy look on his face, showing off to her. "See how well I feed him? Aren't I great at changing diapers?" He did more of the raising and teaching with their son. With their granddaughter, Zara, Grandma did the raising, and he did the teaching. He looked forward to his granddaughter growing up every day, but then he started worrying about Zara Sinclair's future marriage, afraid she'd be tricked by some good-for-nothing bum. Arthur Sinclair liked keeping diaries and notes, so he wrote a whole notebook specifically for his granddaughter title project, Protect Granddaughter. It was filled with solutions to various problems and clearly outlined the types of men to avoid. 1. Sugarcane man, sweet initially, but turns out to be trash. 2. Longan man, drab on the outside, but incredibly sweet inside. However, once you truly get to his core, you find it's dark and hard. 3. Starfruit man, looks appealing but lacks substance, all show and no go. 4. Washing machine man, first he draws you in, then gets you tangled up, then throws you off completely, and finally leaves you hanging. 5. Electrical wire man, juggles multiple connections simultaneously, like parallel wires, powering them all, then easily cuts one off when he feels like it. 6. Cold briquette man. Provides warmth for a while, but afterward, all that's left is a pile of ash. Then there were the abusers, cheaters, opportunistic social climbers, phoenix men, freeloaders living off their parents, guys full of empty promises, cringy guys, turn-off men, average Joes with unwarranted confidence, overconfident mediocre men, mama's boys. He covered them all. This gave Zara Sinclair a deep understanding of men from a young age, making her aware of the sheer variety and the hidden complexities that the waters ran deep. This was why, for the first 28 years of her life, she hadn't been interested in dating. Besides that, the old man had also recorded advice on navigating life, handling relationships, paying attention to detail and tasks, making good use of resources. Thinking about this, Grandma couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry," she murmured. "Your granddaughter's husband is no worse than you were. After all, I picked him." Over the years, thanks to your teachings, Zara Sinclair has grown into an outstanding woman. She can stand on her own 2 feet now. Jejia Foods, the company you founded, hasn't gone under. Lots of people buy and eat its products. And with Ethan Young's help, it's becoming popular with even more people. I'm doing all right, too. I'm 81, still strong and healthy. I can choose someone out without even pausing for breath. Nobody dares to cross me. Grandma was more rational than Arthur Sinclair, sometimes to an extreme degree. She could end a relationship she cherished deeply, bear any cost silently, and cut her losses decisively. She never forced things, no matter how much she cared. As Grandma murmured on, the paper money on the ground burned faster. She shot a look at the tombstone. "Take it slower. No one's fighting you for it." There was a stone placed by the grave, and Grandma sat down when she got tired of standing, tossing the paper money into the fire sheet by sheet. The bright flames illuminated the photo on the tombstone. "Looking at this photo you left, I can hardly remember your face when you were 6 years old anymore." When he was alive, Arthur Sinclair loved putting on horror movies. He knew she was scared but insisted on watching them with her, one crying, one laughing. At night, too frightened to sleep, she would press herself tightly into his arms. He'd pat her back, comforting her. "Grandma you're so afraid of ghosts. If I died, I wouldn't even dare visit your dreams." Then he died. His body went into the cremator, and when the door closed, there was a crackling sound from inside, like fireworks, a brilliant, fleeting bloom of a short life. That day, holding the small wooden box, she said, "I'm not afraid of ghosts anymore. You absolutely have to come visit me." But what did he do? He'd come maybe once every 10 days, sometimes longer, maybe once a month. "I'll come see you again next time. Asterisk if you don't come see me, then I'll just have to go down there to see you." Asterisk. The mountain woods were full of wild gardenias, though it wasn't their blooming season yet. But the gardenias in front of the old man's grave had already quietly blossomed, as if to welcome the person he loved most. When Qin Zheng died, he was still asking if his father had still hated him before he passed away. What father truly hates his son? During the time the old man was sick, his memory faded, his mind wasn't sharp, and he often grabbed her hand, saying he wanted to take their son kite flying. He often brought up the past, unable to forget, unable to let go, feeling deeply sorry. In the end, every relationship is a gradual drifting apart, a farewell. A person is buried, cremated, becoming mere wisps of smoke that scatter with a gust of wind. Hunched over, Grandma slowly walk down the mountain, leaning on Ethan Young's arm. A gentle breeze blew from behind her. Her heart skipped a beat, and she whipped her head around. On the grave, the thatched grass swayed in the wind. Asterisk. Grandma walk slowly. Asterisk, even though he was long gone, she often heard those words echo in her ears. An indescribable sense of sorrow welled up inside her. Her vision blurred with tears, but she fought them back, lowering her head. "You haven't come to see me in my dreams for such a long time." Once they reached the foot of the mountain, Grandma asked, "When are you two planning to have the wedding?" Ethan Young had initially thought about a spring wedding, but with so much happening recently, he wondered if it was really the right time for a celebration. Zara Sinclair looked at Ethan Young, mentally calculating. "Let's aim for the second half of the year." "Wait that long." Grandma wasn't pleased with the timing. "No, I think you should get married this month. There are only 10 days left this month. Isn't that too rushed?" Grandma considered it. True, a wedding wasn't a small affair. There was a lot to prepare, and rushing could lead to mistakes, which wouldn't be worth it. Besides, her health could probably hold out a bit longer. "Then next month it is," Grandma decided firmly. Zara Sinclair started to say something else, but Grandma looked at her. "It's settled. Ethan Young should be very willing, right?" Ethan Young nodded. If he hadn't been willing, he wouldn't have announced their marriage at the movie celebration party. We'll take the wedding photos as soon as we get back. Zara Sinclair's wedding dress had been prepared by Grandma Wood last year. She had thought back then that her granddaughter would look beautiful in a wedding dress and should wear one at least once, married or not. The dress was ready, but the groom's suit wasn't. However, at a wedding, all eyes were usually on the bride. Ethan Young just needed to be the handsome backdrop. He had commissioned quite a few custom casual outfits and suits over the past 2 months, all in colors and styles chosen according to Zara Sinclair's preferences. Sitting in the car, Grandma Wood brought up Ethan Young's movie. What do you plan to do now that you're not acting anymore? Film investment and production. The company's already set up, and we've signed a lot of people recently. The film company previously managed by Serena Sinclair had collapsed. When Zara Sinclair took over, she immediately tore up the unfair contracts, allowing the artists to freely choose whether to stay or leave. Most of the people Ethan Young had signed recently came from that company. He signed them after reviewing their resumes and finding them suitable. Now, the company was growing stronger daily, with various departments operating smoothly and everyone finding suitable roles. Grandma Wood had really liked the movie Ethan Young starred in and felt it was a pity he wasn't acting anymore. I haven't seen such a good movie in a long time. I wish I could come back like that after I die. Zara Sinclair thought the comment was unlucky and told her grandmother not to say such things. Grandma Wood pulled her into a hug. Before I knew it, my Zara has grown up so much. She's getting married. The recent events surrounding the Sinclair family were being closely followed online. One moment it was infidelity, the next domestic violence, then cheating scandals, then death, and now imprisonment. After all the twists and turns, only Zara Sinclair, the sole heir, remained. Some speculated about conspiracy theories, others felt it was karmic retribution, and still others worried about Ethan Young and Zara Sinclair's future children. Would they even be able to pass background checks for government jobs? As for Zara Sinclair herself, some questioned her nature, wondering if she carried a predisposition for violence given her parents' actions. Many started to worry about Ethan Young. The Sinclair Group's PR department kept a close eye on these discussions. No major issues erupted, and seeing the negative topics gain traction, the PR team strategically dropped a news story: Ethan Young and Zara Sinclair's wedding photos. The stunning couple standing together was incredibly eye-catching. Ethan Young's previously dormant Twitter account became a grand stage for public displays of affection, constantly updated with wedding photos. It was a statement without explicitly saying much. Fans liked and retweeted, commenting, "Yes. Feeling good again, my bro. This couple is so easy on the eyes. Sis-in-law is gorgeous. Bro, are you marrying into the Sinclair family? If you are, ask Mr. Chin if they need more people. I'd marry Zara, even as a concubine. Dream on, commenter above. But seriously, I want to join this family to join, not break up. Every time Ethan Young shows his face, I get so mad. The thought of not seeing this face on the big screen anymore makes my jaw ache. Wedding photos are out. Does this mean the wedding is soon? Can we get a live stream? Western or Chinese style? Live stream the ceremony? Sure, but live stream the wedding night too. Red or white? Just make it R-rated. I can be single, but the couple I ship better be making the bed shake like a level 10 earthquake." Knowing Ethan Young had left the entertainment industry, fans became even more unrestrained, making bold and risque remarks. The comment sections were wild. Ethan Young's wedding nearly crashed the servers, its popularity going viral even internationally. April 7th, an auspicious day for marriage. The wedding venue wasn't as extravagant as netizens might have imagined, but it felt warm and intimate. Emily Young, the sole bridesmaid, was responsible for delivering the rings, scattering flower petals, handing out red envelopes. The hosts were the well-known directors Liam Lawrence and Hank Harrison, who hyped up the atmosphere brilliantly. If these two ever stopped directing, they could easily switch careers to comedy crosstalk. Ethan Young had designed and arranged the entire wedding venue himself. Everyone had assumed Zara Sinclair's wedding flowers would be gardenias, but the venue featured hundreds of different types of flowers. He didn't want to define Zara Sinclair with just one kind of flower. She could be as dazzling as a rose, as radiant as a sunflower, or even as tenacious, flamboyant, and endlessly vibrant as a cactus. Zara Sinclair walked down the aisle holding her grandmother's arm, emerging from the sea of flowers. Her wedding dress trailed behind her, the pearls adorning it, seeming to chime softly with each step, each thought. Asterisk, there are countless flowers in the world, but when I look at you, there's only one. Asterisk. Ethan Young was mesmerized, instinctively stepping forward. Grandma Wood took Zara Sinclair's hand and placed it in his. "Child, from now on, you will walk the rest of Zara Sinclair's path with her. This was as far as she could accompany her. Time flew so fast. That fall she took back then had been the right one. It had brought about this wonderful destiny. Zara Sinclair considered herself strong and rarely cried, but now tears welled up uncontrollably. She gripped her grandmother's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. Grandma Wood's eyes reddened too. She gently patted Zara Sinclair's hand. "Don't cry on your happy day. It won't look good in the photos. Save the tears for tonight." She seemed to have accidentally spoken her inner thoughts aloud and glanced furtively at the guests below, hoping no outsiders had heard. Grandma Wood's words made Zara Sinclair laugh through her tears, a blush crossing her cheeks. Ethan Young looked solemn, enunciating each word clearly. "Grandma, rest assured. I will definitely do what I promised you. I will never forget." Then, he knelt on one knee, holding out his hand. "From our first meeting until our last days, in the name of love for the rest of our lives. Beautiful Miss Sinclair, will you marry me and spend the rest of your life with me?" Zara Sinclair smiled down at him, slowly placing her hand in his palm. "Congratulations, handsome Mr. Young, on marrying such a beautiful bride today. I'm fortunate beyond measure." Emily Young sobbed loudly while scattering petals, making it look as though it was her brother getting married off. A lot of familiar faces showed up at Ethan Young's wedding. Not many of his own relatives and friends were there. It was mostly people connected to the Sinclair family. After all, the Sinclair family ran a publicly listed group, so they had numerous business partners alone. Lucas Taylor, who was far away in Country Y, rushed back overnight after hearing about Zara Sinclair's wedding, only to be sent right back by Mr. Taylor as soon as he landed. He cried his heart out at the airport that day, even ending up trending online. They say the internet never forgets, and Serena Sinclair's imprisonment brought Lucas Taylor back into the spotlight. Onlookers thought Lucas Taylor had returned to see Serena Sinclair, but were surprised when he was heard shouting Zara Sinclair's name at the airport. Then it was dug up. Lucas Taylor had gone to Country Y years ago to pursue Zara Sinclair, the older Sinclair daughter. The person he'd always loved was the elder sister. Loving the older sister while being unwilling to break off the engagement with the younger one. Wasn't that the definition of a two-timing scumbag? If Serena Sinclair was labeled a player back then, Lucas Taylor was a master of time management. Because of this incident, Taylor Holdings' previously stable stock prices started fluctuating wildly again, making Jessica Taylor so angry she wanted to wash her hands of the whole thing. The Taylor elders felt too embarrassed to attend, so they had Alice Taylor deliver a wedding gift and the customary monetary contribution. Alice Taylor watched Ethan Young on the stage. He gazed at Zara Sinclair with such focus and intensity, leaving no spare glance for anyone else. Today's bride was truly stunning. Even Alice couldn't help but stop and stare. She had filmed romantic scenes with Ethan Young before and assumed the way he looked at his lover would be just like in the movies. But in reality, his acting didn't capture even a tenth of the genuine emotion he showed now, an intensity that could make even a bystander's heart flutter. It had been over 5 years since they finished filming, yet Alice Taylor still hadn't moved on from her role emotionally. Hearing Ethan Young's name made her subconsciously perk up her ears. She couldn't help stealing glances at him, following his news, searching for information about him online, and scrolling through his Instagram daily. There's a saying, everyone looks beautiful under the cherry blossoms. Alice Taylor felt that wasn't entirely true. Between a toad under the cherry blossoms and a flower fairy under the cherry blossoms, anyone would choose the latter. Beauty enhances beauty. They complemented each other. Ethan Young was wonderful, and Zara Sinclair, standing beside him, was wonderful too. She was beautiful, noble, elegant, intelligent. Her virtues made Alice feel inadequate. If it were her, no one could be certain of winning against Zara. One had to remember, when Zara Sinclair chose to marry Ethan Young in a whirlwind romance, he had nothing, his reputation wasn't great, and crucially, he had supposedly been financially supported by Serena Sinclair. Had it been Alice, even if she'd fallen for Ethan Young at first sight, she wouldn't have been able to commit to being with him. The moment she started weighing the pros and cons, she had already lost. Besides, back then, prompted by just a few words from Serena Sinclair, she had ridiculed him, questioned his professional abilities, and doubted his character. After exchanging vows, Ethan Young took the ring from Amy Young and placed it on Zara Sinclair's finger. His entire hand trembled as he carefully slid the ring onto her ring finger. He held Zara Sinclair's hand as if cradling a priceless treasure. After placing the ring, it was clear his eyes were red-rimmed. Amy Young couldn't stop crying. Alice Taylor felt like crying too, but when she turned and saw the snot bubble Amy had cried out, she couldn't help but chuckle. She offered a tissue, comforting her. Okay, don't cry. Okay, don't cry. I'm just happy. Amy Young blew her nose, her voice hoarse. My brother finally has a family. After the ceremony, Zara Sinclair changed into a reception dress for the toasts. It was a red gown with an open back, a bow tied at the waist. Her slightly curled, long hair fell naturally to her waist, and a gardenia was tucked behind her ear. She looked radiant and noble, yet retained an air of innocence. After changing, Zara Sinclair twirled in front of Ethan Young. Do I look good? Do I look good? Ethan Young applauded. Beautiful. Red suits you perfectly. Pleased, Zara Sinclair leaned in, wrapped her arms around his neck, and gave him a sweet kiss, the scent of wine lingering between their lips. The day was more tiring than expected. Ethan Young was managing, but he felt for Zara Sinclair. Everyone else focused on Zara Sinclair's face and figure, but only Ethan Young kept watching her heels as she walked in her high heels, worried she might trip or get blisters. Are your feet tired? Not tired. Though she said she wasn't tired, her body leaned into Ethan Young's embrace. You chose the shoes. They're very comfortable, no blisters. Ethan Young paid great attention to detail. Knowing Zara Sinclair's shoe size, he had them custom-made to be both beautiful and comfortable. The heel area was crafted from a special material, soft, form-fitting, and non-chafing. Ethan Young had even tried them himself before commissioning the craftsman. Busy with wedding preparations, Ethan Young hadn't rested much these past few days and had suffered a rare bout of insomnia last night. Despite all they'd been through, and having been legally married for months, he still felt incredibly nervous about the wedding ceremony. Especially on the way to pick up the bride, his heart raced and his palms sweated. Only when holding her tightly in his arms did he feel grounded. The wedding was trending online all day, even crashing the servers at one point. By evening, Ethan Young had seen off all the guests, waiting until the very last one departed. Zara Sinclair had already returned to their new home, saying she was preparing a surprise for Ethan Young. Grandma would suddenly appear beside Ethan Young, patting his shoulder. Going home now. Zara Sinclair is waiting for you. Don't keep her waiting too long. Tonight belongs to you too. Going home now. Zara Sinclair is waiting for you. Don't keep her waiting too long. Tonight belongs to you too. Used to Grandma Wood's teasing, Ethan Young replied, Grandma, aren't you coming back with us? Grandma, aren't you coming back with us? I'm going back to Laurel Heights. One needs self-awareness. Even the best mood lighting is still just a third wheel. Ethan Young quickly arranged for a driver to take Grandma Wood home. As for Amy Young, she had already left in a taxi much earlier. As the excitement subsided and calm returned, life seemed to reset, leaving a sense of emptiness. However, the mere thought of Zara Sinclair filled him with anticipation again, washing away his fatigue and renewing his energy. It wasn't far from home, just a 15-minute drive. Staying within the speed limit, he drove as fast as he could. As soon as the car stopped, Ethan Young dashed towards the building, frantically mashing the elevator button. He unlocked the door with his fingerprint. The moment Ethan Young stepped inside, he heard Zara Sinclair calling him from within. Boss, is that you? I'm back. You're finally back. Quick, come rescue me. Zara Sinclair's voice trembled, her breathing unsteady as if enduring something. Ethan Young didn't stop to analyze. Hearing the word rescue, he panicked and rushed in without even changing his shoes. The sound came from the bedroom. There, kneeling on the petal-strewn bed, was Zara Sinclair. She wore a white nightgown, her body bound by a red ribbon. The ribbon was folded in half, looped around her neck, with the ends draping down her front, tied in knots sequentially at her collarbones, between her breasts, over her sternum, and near her pubic bone. It was the tortoiseshell bondage tie Grandma Wood had taught her. It was difficult to do alone, so she'd only managed a rough version. Just those few ties had made her break out in a sweat. Zara Sinclair seemed quite pleased with her handiwork because Ethan Young was completely transfixed. Boss, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and untie me. She presented herself like a gift, waiting for him to unwrap her. Boss, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and untie me. Okay. Like a new recruit obeying an officer's command, Ethan Young marched forward stiffly. Seductive incense burned in the room, and mood lighting was on. It was still the same home, the same bed they always slept in, yet somehow it felt both familiar and strangely new. Ethan Young walked over, his 10 fingers moving independently, as if they weren't his own. Zara Sinclair had tied the ribbon herself, a knot so tight Ethan couldn't fathom how she'd managed it. As he bent down to loosen the silk, Zara squirmed in his arms, kissing his chin one moment and nibbling his tie the next. By the time the ribbon was undone, Ethan's cheeks were flushed, and a light sheen of sweat covered his skin. It wasn't even summer yet. Why was it so hot? He knew Zara loved surprises, and he often enjoyed them, thinking he'd seen it all, only to be delightfully caught off guard each time. He always anticipated them, and he was never disappointed. You untied my ribbon, so I'll untie your tie. Ethan bent down as Zara reached up and removed his tie. Instead of discarding it, she fastened it around her own neck like a choker. In that moment, Ethan felt like a predator lying in wait in the jungle. He watched Zara roll around on the petal-strewn bed, scattering the blossoms. Her barely there nightgown allowed the red petals to cling to her skin like a shower of kisses. Their playful antics worked up an appetite. Zara had prepared a strawberry chocolate cake. Holding it up, she asked, "I made a cake. Want some?" The lack of forks was clearly intentional. Zara ran her tongue over the frosting, a seemingly casual gesture that Ethan knew was carefully calculated. "I don't like strawberries. You eat them for me." She picked up a strawberry with her fingers and held it to Ethan's lips. This time, she didn't need to coax him. He opened his mouth, taking both the strawberry and her fingertips. His eyes locked on Zara as he savored the sweet juice of the berry. "Good. Very good." Ethan's gaze wasn't on the cake. It was devouring her. As if burned by his intense stare, Zara's hand trembled, and the cake tumbled onto her, the dark chocolate a stark contrast against her skin. Zara looked at him innocently. "I dropped the cake." She reached to pick it up, but Ethan caught her wrist, pressing it against the bed. "Don't bother. I'll eat it." Slowly, still holding the red ribbon, Ethan deepened a moment by asking Zara, "Who taught you this?" Zara, slightly tipsy, answered whatever Ethan asked. A smug look crossed her face, seeking praise. "Grandma would. I learned it right away. Aren't I clever?" "Clever." Ethan kissed her forehead, catching a few beads of sweat. "Your husband will teach you too." The ribbon was long enough. Ethan pinned Zara's hands down, wrapping the ribbon around her wrists and then over her eyes. Without her sight, her reactions would be even more heightened. He lifted her and carried her out of the bedroom to the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room, knowing how much she loved them. These windows had a quirk. During the day, you couldn't see inside from outside, but at night, the interior was clearly visible unless a sheer curtain was drawn. He held her facing the window. "Do you know where we are?" Deprived of sight, Zara relied on touch. She felt the sheer curtain, then the cool glass. "The living room? Are you afraid someone will see us?" Zara shook her head. "You wouldn't let them." He wouldn't. Her hands pressed against the glass, her back against his chest. Zara was completely enveloped by Ethan. His arms around her waist were her only support. Without them, she would collapse. Ethan looked up through the gap in the curtains, watching the scene outside. When Zara seemed about to give in, he untied the ribbon from her eyes. "Look outside, my love." What was outside? Zara obediently looked. A drone show lit up the night sky. Since fireworks weren't allowed, Ethan had hired a team to design this spectacle. Thousands of drones, like a galaxy of stars, created a lavish, romantic light show. The crowd outside cheered, and so did Zara. The drones scattered like exploding fireworks, white sparks cascading down. "Do you like it?" Zara shrieked with delight, gripping the curtains so tightly her knuckles turned white. "I love it. I'm glad you like it." He gently tilted her chin up and kissed her. 1,000 lights twinkled outside, but he was kissing his world. Zara held an irreplaceable place in his heart. If he had to describe her, she was the gentle breeze that filled his countless dreams. Like the gardenia among the trees, true love is rare in this world. That night, they did everything they desired. They reveled in shared madness, screamed with joy, indulged in a gentle haze, and surrendered to passion. Their bodies, slick with perspiration, pressed close, moving to a shared rhythm, a harmonious melody. In that moment, they were lovers blessed by the entire universe. The drone show topped BuzzFeed's trending list and stayed there all night. The sheer volume of online buzz even landed the story on the news. Meanwhile, in prison, every morning, inmates were roused early for roll call and work assignments. Serena Sinclair's task for the past few days had been operating a sewing machine. She struggled with the unfamiliar task, pricking her finger on the first day. The old Serena wouldn't have lifted a finger to do chores. She wouldn't even pick up a broom if it fell at her feet. Since her incarceration, however, it felt like she'd done 26 years' worth of housework. She used to watch Mrs. Ward doing chores and think it looked easy. Ethan, for example, could do so many things and excel at all of them. He'd do whatever was asked, even repetitive tasks, without a hint of impatience. Now that she was doing them herself, Serena realized how painful it was to scrub floors with cold water in winter, how much her back and knees ached from constant bending. This monotonous, exhausting life felt endless. She felt overwhelmed by these simple tasks, while Ethan had handled a workload 10 times heavier. As for the food, the kind of bland bread Serena wouldn't have glanced at before, she now choked it down, tears mixing with each bite. Her meticulously cared-for hair became dry and brittle. Her slender fingers, covered in cuts, were developing calluses. Her skin lost its luster, and her eyes grew vacant. Serena couldn't bear to look in the mirror anymore. She refused to acknowledge the reflection as herself. She saw a demon, a soul-devouring monster. The prison dormitory was far from peaceful at night. Snoring, tossing and turning, and the constant sound of footsteps outside her cell made sleep elusive. Serena, a light sleeper, took ages to drift off, only to be plagued by nightmares of the demon in the mirror. She'd wake up screaming, but the other inmates weren't as accommodating as the people in her former life. They were quick to take offense. Fights were avoided only in the presence of guards. The quiet of bedtime was more like the lull before a storm. Most of the inmates had violent tendencies, their pent-up aggression simmering beneath the surface. Hearing Serena's cries, the nearest inmate rolled out of bed, kicked her, and dragged her by the hair towards the bathroom. If you don't want to sleep, go guard the toilet. Serena Sinclair was dragged into the bathroom. She struggled to her feet and caught sight of her reflection in the window, dark like a mirror at night, showing her disheveled, ugly form. She looked like a madwoman. She let out a sudden scream, but another inmate instantly muffled it and slapped her twice across the face. What the hell are you screaming for? You got a death wish? I've had enough of you. I fucking hate rich bitches like you. The woman snarled, grabbing Serena's hair and shoving her head into a bucket filled with cold water. The weather had started to warm up, but the nights were still cold, and the water was bone-chilling, soaking Serena through. Forced underwater, she felt the terrifying panic of suffocation. She struggled violently, knocking over the bucket before collapsing onto the floor, weak. The inmate glared viciously and kicked her hard in the stomach twice. After taking a few hits, Serena fought back, catching the woman off guard, grabbing her leg, and biting down hard. "You fucking bitch!" the inmate shrieked. Fueled by desperation, Serena somehow summoned the strength to wrestle the woman down and pin her. "You touch me in here," Serena threatened, panting, "and I swear when I get out, I'll kill you." Who couldn't talk tough? But Serena knew if you just took the abuse in prison, you'd be bullied forever. The inmate laughed, as if she'd heard a joke. "Kill me? With what? You still think you're Miss Sinclair from the Sinclair family? Your daddy isn't your daddy. He's dead. Your mom's locked up too. Might not even make out alive. And you're not even a real Sinclair. No power, no influence, just like me. You gonna kill me with those skinny arms and legs? You've been in here this long, and you're still daydreaming? Come on, let's see who kills who first. Me, right here, or you, after you get out." With that, she shoved Serena hard, grabbed a dirty rag from the bathroom floor, wrapped it around Serena's head, and slammed her against the wall. The inmates here did more labor than Serena. They were stronger, quicker. Beating her was easy. Serena truly hadn't grasped her situation. Part of her still carried herself with the arrogance of her former life. That kind of pride just rubbed people the wrong way, made them want to teach her a harsh lesson. After venting her anger by beating Serena for a few minutes, the inmate left her crumpled on the floor and went back to bed. It was survival of the fittest everywhere. The strong preyed on the weak. If Serena couldn't adapt, she'd just keep getting victimized. Serena lay on the floor for a long time. Not because she didn't want to get up, but because the pain was too intense, like her muscles were torn, her bones broken. Only when she started shivering uncontrollably from the cold and wet did she manage to crawl to her feet. She changed her clothes, every movement pulling at her fresh injuries. She couldn't cry, couldn't make a sound, changing gingerly, terrified of provoking another beating. Serena knew no one here liked her. Of course, she didn't care about being liked by them. She despised these people. Outside, she wouldn't have given them a second glance. This attitude bred resentment, which was why when she was attacked, no one intervened. They just watched. Serena climbed back on her bunk, but couldn't sleep. When the morning bell rang, she instinctively wanted to report the assault to the guards, but meeting the threatening glares of the other inmates, the words died in her throat. At 7 sharp, they watched the news. Serena wasn't interested, staring blankly at the screen until Ethan Young appeared. Her eyes lit up for a second, then glazed over with a stunned expression. On the screen, Ethan Young, dressed in a white suit, stood beside Zara Sinclair. They were married. No, wait, they had been married for a while. This was just a formal wedding ceremony being broadcast. Serena thought she was numb by now, but seeing Ethan Young's name still made her instinctively pay attention, her gaze fixed solely on him. The image flashed by quickly, but the sight of Ethan Young was seared into her mind. Through all the ostracism, ridicule, neglect, and beatings these past days, her thoughts returned most often to Ethan Young. She'd barely lasted half an hour after being locked up before she couldn't stand it. How had Ethan Young endured it 5 years ago? How could she have been so cruel back then? Treated him so harshly? Trampling on someone's body and dignity like that always came back to haunt you. Serena was consumed by regret. Every time she thought of Ethan Young, she deeply condemned her past self. Now Ethan Young was like the moon, high above. She could see him, but never reach him. What goes around comes around. Every bit of light she'd lost, she deserved to lose. The years had passed. Their bond was irrevocably broken, fated never to meet again. Breakfast time. Inmates lined up for their meal. There were no choices. Getting enough to feel full was all that mattered. Serena usually had a small appetite and ate little. If there was an egg, she'd eat it with some porridge to help it go down. If not, just the porridge. The steamed buns were dry and tasteless, the noodles limp. Today, Serena took everything she could, piling her tray high. Not finishing meant punishment. She picked up a steamed bun. Being near the back of the line, it was already cold, only faintly warm in the center. Without water, the dry bun was hard to swallow. Though soft, it scratched her throat painfully. Serena shoved large bites of the bun into her mouth, forcing them down. She didn't drink anything. Slowly, she tasted saltiness in her mouth. Lowering her head, she saw a few drops of water splash onto the table, one, then two, pooling together. Tears. She choked down both fist-sized steamed buns, then finished the bowl of thin porridge, pickled vegetables, and the egg. By the end, her stomach was painfully stretched, and she felt nauseous. Yet she still wanted to eat more, still felt hungry, felt an emptiness inside that desperately needed filling. Binge eating was an emotional issue. She never understood binge eaters before. Why they kept eating when they couldn't stomach more, eating and vomiting, then eating again. Now she understood. It stemmed from a profound lack of happiness. It wasn't food they craved, but emotional fulfillment. Unable to find comfort elsewhere, they sought solace and redemption in food. But food was just food. A cold, tasteless steamed bun wasn't love. Time in prison wasn't hers. It was strictly scheduled, leaving no room to process emotions. After breakfast, the guards started assigning tasks. Serena worked like a robot, gazing at the high walls in the distance. For a fleeting moment, she almost forgot what was on the other side of that wall. She remembered her life of luxury and indulgence out there, spending money purely for fun, being constantly flattered and pampered, thoroughly taken care of. Back then, meals costing thousands, even tens of thousands, often weren't satisfying enough. Now, even craving a simple bowl of clam soup felt like an unattainable luxury. She missed wearing designer clothes, carrying luxury handbags, driving her sports car wherever she pleased, the wind in her hair. She missed her big, soft bed at home, missed curling up on the sofa playing video games for hours, missed the freedom of sleeping as late as she wanted. She looked up at the sky again. Summer was approaching. The weather was warm today, around 77 degrees Fahrenheit, yet she felt cold, a chill that seemed to penetrate deep into her bones. Every change of season, her sensitive skin would react. These past few days it had been dry and unbearably itchy. The relentless sun had burned her face. She touched her cheek. At only 26, her skin was already growing coarse, fine lines appearing around her eyes. She'd even found several white hairs recently. How had she aged so much, so quickly? The film Coward won countless accolades, including Best Picture. Liam Lawrence and Hank Harrison shared the Best Director award, the first time in history two directors had won together. Best Lead Actress, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor and Actress, Best Screenwriter. Coward single-handedly achieved a grand slam at the film festival. Ethan Young himself held 2 trophies. His superb performance earned him Best Actor, making him the undisputed king of cinema, while the tightly woven script won him Best Screenwriter. Zara Sinclair had styled him for the event. His hair, having grown longer, was trimmed and slicked back. Paired with a black suit, he had thick eyebrows, bright eyes, sharp features, and the corners of his mouth were turned up in a confident, high-spirited smile. Zara Sinclair was also there, sitting in the audience. The venue was packed, every seat taken. Zara Sinclair's seat wasn't prominent, but Ethan Young spotted her instantly. They looked at each other across the crowd and smiled. The camera accurately captured this, focusing on the two of them for a moment. Live stream comments popped up. "He looks so happy today." Seriously can't be away from his wife for a second. Ethan Young held his trophy and delivered his prepared speech. Mostly official remarks, thank yous, and the like. Winning the award and retiring from the industry, he had no regrets. He had put a perfect end to his acting career. He remembered his first acting job. His first role was in a short drama at 19, playing the cheerful second male lead. In the show, he was sunny, outgoing, and a rich kid who wanted for nothing. Off-screen, his parents were gone, and he struggled daily just to make ends meet. He was repressed and miserable during that time. But when it was time to act, he could forget the pain and find brief moments of release. Ethan Young liked to see things through, even an unreasonable stunt double contract. Since he signed it for 5 years, he would dutifully complete the 5 years. After entering the entertainment industry, he also wanted to build a career to see how far he could go. Hard work pays off, he succeeded. The moment he received the trophy, Ethan Young stepped off stage to embrace Zara Sinclair, sharing his joy with her. Then it was Alice Taylor's turn. She also won Best Lead Actress for her role in Coward. She performed well in the movie, but undeniably, her performance was often elevated by Ethan Young. She definitely couldn't have achieved this result on her own, so she was very grateful that Ethan Young had chosen her back then. Acting alongside Ethan Young, she gained a lot and improved significantly. With achievements under her belt, endorsements followed, her value skyrocketed, and she successfully became an A-list star. The host livened up the atmosphere and suddenly asked Alice Taylor, "I heard that after filming Coward, you couldn't shake off the role for a long time, that you got too immersed. Is that true?" Alice Taylor admitted openly, "It's true." Her scenes in the movie were mainly opposite Ethan Young, getting too immersed and unable to break character. Could it be because of Ethan Young? The reporters in the audience sensed gossip. BuzzFeed headlines were already forming in their minds. Alice Taylor fell for Ethan Young after getting too immersed in character. This kind of relationship gossip is what netizens devour these days. They don't care about a person's achievements. Instead, they love digging into their private life and relationships. If Alice Taylor dared to admit she had feelings for Ethan Young, even under the guise of being too immersed, she would face criticism. "What about now? I've let go of that character now," Alice Taylor replied. "I'm currently in talks for another movie, a role I also really like. Just like in a movie, you have to keep moving forward. If you always need someone else to walk your path with you, you can never truly be yourself. Do your best and find joy in everything. I want to become myself." Meeting someone too captivating when you're young can haunt you for life. When Alice Taylor was still in middle school, she happened to see a short drama on someone else's phone and couldn't forget the second male lead for a long time. She thought it was love, but ended up forgetting him in less than half a year. It wasn't until 6 years later, when she saw Ethan Young again, that she dredged up that figure from her memory. Someone who captivated you at first sight can captivate you a second time. This time, how long would it take to forget completely? Alice Taylor also had her own path she wanted to follow, like winning every possible award and creating more great works in the future. She also wanted to become someone who captivated others. Her path wasn't just beneath her feet. She wanted to step out and face the world. If you want to create bonds with others, you have to risk shedding tears. Actually, there's another line after that. We aren't afraid of shedding tears, but it has to be worth it. She felt it was worth it. Knowing Ethan Young meant she gained far more than she lost. As for her future love life, Alice Taylor wasn't discouraged. After all, the future was long, and who could predict what would happen? After the awards, the director organized a dinner. The film crew had a great atmosphere, without rigid hierarchies, closer than just colleagues. The woman who won Best Supporting Actress today had signed with Ethan Young's company. She raised her glass to him. "Mr. Young, thank you," she began. "If it weren't for you, I might already be dead. Before I got the script for Coward, I thought my life was over, that there was no way out. You probably don't know, but those couple of days I was writing my suicide note. I had a stash of sleeping pills on my nightstand." She started crying as she spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a chance to see the light, for letting me know I still have value, that I still have a path to walk." Ethan Young raised his glass. "You have a long road ahead. I wish you a bright future." Ethan Young chose to establish Starlight Talent Agency largely because he remembered his past self. Having been caught in the rain himself, he wanted to hold an umbrella for others. At the film festival, Ethan Young received countless business cards. Some just wanted to make connections, others genuinely wanted to collaborate, and some film executives wanted to invest and get a piece of the pie. When you have value, others will come to you with assets. The essence of networking isn't just knowing people, but mutual benefit. Your value determines how others treat you. Now, Ethan Young, Having achieved success and won major awards was seen by everyone as having immeasurable value. Not to mention, he now had the backing of the Sinclair family and was married to someone like Zara Sinclair. Currently, Ethan Young had already started filming a new project, still with his familiar team. The news had just broken and was already trending on BuzzFeed. Audiences were eagerly anticipating the new film, hoping it would make history and break records. Ethan Young didn't drink alcohol, using water instead for toasts. No one dared pressure him to drink. Ethan Young loved taking care of Zara Sinclair. When it came to being good to her, nothing ever felt like enough. It had slowly become a habit. He knew what Zara Sinclair liked to eat. After the dishes were served, he'd scan them quickly. Before Zara Sinclair even got a clear look, Ethan Young had already picked out her favorite dish, placed it in her bowl, and turned it towards her. He would naturally peel shrimp for her, remove fish bones, and remember the food she avoided. Everyone at the table teased them, remarking on how wonderful the couple's relationship was. Ethan Young placed some fish meat into Zara Sinclair's bowl. Zara Sinclair took a small bite, then suddenly covered her mouth with a napkin, her movements stiffening as if someone had hit pause. Ethan Young was watching her so intently that he immediately caught the sudden change in her expression. "What's wrong? Does the fish taste bad? Or are you not feeling well?" Zara Sinclair met Ethan Young's worried gaze. "I'm fine. I just suddenly don't feel like eating fish." "Okay, we can eat something else. What do you feel like?" Zara Sinclair glanced at the dishes on the table and whispered to Ethan Young, "Lately, I've been craving stronger flavors like sour or spicy things." Everything on the table was pretty mild. Ethan Young scanned the dishes until he spotted the sweet and sour ribs, which had a bit of tang. "How about the sweet and sour ribs?" Just a little." Ethan Young put a small piece of the ribs in her bowl. He only relaxed after seeing her eat it without any discomfort. He was curious. Zara usually preferred milder flavors, so why the sudden craving for something strong? Still, Ethan didn't think too much of it. "Should we order more? How about spicy boiled beef?" Zara Sinclair shook her head. "I'm pretty much full. If you're not full, I'll make you something else when we get home." The fridge at home was stocked with food. Ethan loved cooking for Zara. He always felt a great sense of accomplishment whenever he saw the satisfied look on her face as she ate. Even though Zara said she was fine, Ethan was still worried. He finished dinner quickly and left with Zara. It was still early when they got back. Ethan took off his jacket. "Are you hungry? Want something to eat?" Zara Sinclair replied, "Not right now, I don't feel like it. You go shower first." Not showering together. The couple often showered together. It wasn't awkward for them. Zara declined. Ethan stood by the bed, took off his shirt and dress pants, and went to shower. Soon, the sound of running water came from inside. Zara got up, took a pregnancy test kit from the drawer, and headed to the guest bathroom. A few minutes later, she leaned against the main bathroom doorframe outside, holding the pregnancy test, watching the blurry silhouette through the frosted glass door. She took a deep breath and called out, "Honey." "Yeah." Zara rubbed the pregnancy test in her hand. "I'm pregnant." Ethan stopped moving. Zara thought he hadn't heard, so she quickly repeated, "Honey, I said I'm preg." Halfway through her sentence, Ethan yanked open the shower door with a swish. His dripping wet body appeared before her. A quick glance downwards made Zara's heart race and a flush creep over her skin. Steam billowed out. Ethan gripped the door handle, veins standing out on his arm. His skin was flushed, and he was surrounded by damp steam. He looked at Zara. "I heard you." They looked at each other, and the next second, they both broke into smiles. Ethan scratched the back of his head, so happy he didn't know what to do with his hands. His emotions felt like fizzing soda, excitement bubbling rapidly inside him. He felt lightheaded, almost unreal with happiness. Infected by the smile in his eyes, Zara smiled too. She pulled a bath towel off the hook on the wall. "Are you done showering?" "Yeah, I'm done." "Do you want to shower?" "I can help you." He desperately wanted to hold her right then, but was afraid of hurting her. Zara took the towel and started drying him off like toweling down a big dog from his hair to his shoulders, chest, abdomen. Ethan's breath came out hot. He lowered his head obediently, letting her dry him. First time dating, first kiss, first time making love. So many of life's firsts had been with Ethan. Now, they were entering a new realm, becoming parent for the first time. They were both excited and nervous about the baby. Especially Ethan, whose nervousness far exceeded hers. His expression was stiff, even his neck seemed rigid. She draped the towel over his head and ruffled his hair playfully, trying to rub away his tension. Then she stood on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The moment she kissed him, Ethan reacted quickly. His body instinctively moved closer to hers, carefully avoiding her belly as he placed his hands on the small of her back. Kissing was familiar territory for them. They instinctively opened their mouths, tongues meeting with a familiar intensity, a tender passion deliberately restrained. Zara tilted her head back, taking the initiative, gently sucking on his lower lip before speaking. "Come with me to the prenatal checkup tomorrow. And don't be nervous." Even though he hadn't said anything, Zara could see he was tense. Ethan tried hard to calm himself down. "Okay, I'm not nervous." Zara was under more pressure than he was. He couldn't lose his cool at a crucial time. There was a lot of water on the floor. Ethan scooped Zara up in his arms. The towel on his head fell to the floor. He stepped on the towel as he carried her back to the bedroom, then sat on the edge of the bed, settling Zara onto his lap. "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Zara shook her head. "No, just earlier when I ate the fish, the smell seemed strong and made me feel nauseous." "What do you want to eat?" "I'll go make it for you." Zara grabbed his arm. "I want you. We can't do anything strenuous during pregnancy. Not even gently. It's not good for you. We need to protect the baby." Ethan had done his research. He knew they had to be careful, avoiding anything too strenuous, even being mindful during intimacy to ensure the baby was safe. Many pregnant women experience increased desire. He could satisfy her in other ways. Zara's face fell, looking gloomy. Ethan stroked her face soothingly. "We just need to be patient for the first 3 months. Once the baby is more stable, it'll be okay." Making her abstain for 3 months. Zara gritted her teeth inwardly. After all, once you're used to the main course, who wants plain broth? She cursed herself for not meeting Ethan sooner, wishing she'd met him when he was 18 or 19, so they could have had a few more years of feasting. She hadn't been interested when Grandma would try to introduce them back then, and now she deeply regretted it. But she was abroad back then and didn't have time, and Ethan was busy too. They just never managed to meet. "Well then, you'll just have to satisfy me properly." Zara looked at Ethan with a seductive gaze. This would be a difficult challenge for Ethan too. He had some enduring ahead of him. Worried that Zara might slip and fall in the shower, Ethan put down a non-slip mat on the bathroom floor and laid down a soft rug in the bedroom. While Zara showered, Ethan waited just outside the door. When he heard her ask for water, he immediately went to the kitchen and mixed her a glass of lemon water. When they slept at night, they both liked to lie on their sides, facing the same direction. This made it easy for Ethan to hold Zara in his arms. He gently stroked Zara's belly, unable to believe that inside her slender body, there was a tiny life, a blend of his blood and hers. Successful career, his wife in his arms, and he was going to be a father. Thinking about all this, Ethan couldn't help but smile. Once Ethan started thinking about something, he tended to go deep, like prenatal education, diet during pregnancy, raising the child after birth. But right now, the most important thing was Zara's health. "What do you want for breakfast tomorrow morning?" Zara thought for a moment. "Sour soup dumplings. Extra spicy and extra sour. Eat more. You're too thin right now. You need to put on some weight. Otherwise, when that belly gets big, you'll look like a cute balloon on a stick, wobbling around." Zara Sinclair laughed. "It's not that exaggerated. Keeping pregnancy weight gain within a reasonable range is what's healthy." Ethan Young nodded, burying his face in the crook of her neck. "You're working so hard, honey." Zara Sinclair felt her heart soften, playing with Ethan Young's long fingers. "I'm very happy right now, truly content. It doesn't feel hard at all." What did adding a new family member mean? It meant there would be one more person to love Ethan Young. Ethan Young decided they needed to hire another housekeeper, arrange for a nutritionist, and also have a family doctor on call. While Ethan Young was still murmuring about his plans, Zara Sinclair had already fallen asleep, her head pillowed on his arm. Her hair brushed against his face, and he could clearly smell her unique scent. Lately, Ethan Young had been sleeping very well, but tonight he found himself somewhat sleepless. His emotions were a tangled mess, a strange, inexplicable excitement bubbling within him as he listened to the wind rustling outside the screen window. It wasn't until the latter half of the night that he finally succumbed to drowsiness and drifted off. He hadn't set an alarm, but woke up naturally when it was time. Ethan Young carefully eased Zara Sinclair off his arm, tucked the covers around her, and got up to make breakfast. Halfway through cooking, he suddenly remembered the prenatal checkup required fasting. He put the dumplings back and switched to making porridge, placing it in an insulated container along with some homemade pickled vegetables, sour and spicy, very appetizing. Ethan Young had no experience and didn't know what pregnant women like to eat. He recalled seeing pregnant women on TV feeling nauseous and eating sour plums to settle their stomachs. He looked up sour plums online, checked the ingredients list, and felt uneasy. Finally, he decided to buy some sour plums to prepare at home himself. The housekeeper also got up. Seeing Ethan Young busy in the kitchen, she walked over and asked, "Mr. Young, you're up early again? What are you making for breakfast?" "I'm going to be a father." The housekeeper pushed up her sleeves. For the first time, she saw a touch of goofiness on Ethan Young's usually composed face. He repeated with a wide grin, "I'm going to be a dad." She remembered asking about breakfast, didn't she? But hearing that Zara Sinclair was pregnant, the housekeeper was overjoyed too. "Congratulations. Where's Mrs. Sinclair?" "She's still sleeping. I'm taking her for a prenatal checkup later." The housekeeper reminded him, "You need to fast for the checkup." "I know." Ethan Young was in high spirits, smiling all morning. The housekeeper watched him bustling around the house, finishing in the kitchen, then tidying the living room, and after the living room, he went out onto the balcony. He leaned towards several pots of gardenias that hadn't bloomed yet and said, "I'm going to be a dad. Where are you guys going to bloom?" "So silly." The housekeeper was about to chuckle when she saw Zara Sinclair emerge from the bedroom. She had clearly overheard Ethan Young's words too. Her eyes crinkled with laughter, and though there was no sun, she seemed bathed in sunlight, radiating warmth. Ethan Young brought the insulated container so Zara Sinclair could eat breakfast right after a checkup, preventing her blood sugar from dropping too low. Since it was their own Seabreeze General Hospital, a quick call was all it took to go straight there. The examination was quick. She was 6 weeks pregnant, the image showing a distinct small shadow. Ethan Young stood beside her, glancing back and forth between the screen and Zara Sinclair's belly, peppering Dr. Johnson with questions about precautions. Such wonderful news about Zara's pregnancy naturally had to be shared with Grandma. Leaving Seabreeze General Hospital, Ethan Young held her hand tightly. Once in the car, he waited until she finished her breakfast before driving to Laurel Heights to have lunch with Grandma Wood, picking up Emily Young on the way. When they told Grandma Wood about Zara's pregnancy, she was naturally overjoyed. Emily Young was speechless with surprise, her mouth agape. After a long moment, she mumbled to herself, "I'm going to be an aunt." Grandma Wood had someone start making clam chowder to nourish Zara Sinclair. Ethan Young said, "Grandma, Zara hasn't been able to stomach clam chowder recently. She's been feeling a bit nauseous." Grandma Wood asked, "Nauseous, huh? Well, when you feel nauseous, do you crave sour things or spicy things?" Zara Sinclair replied, "Both." Emily Young interjected, "Could it be fraternal twins?" "No, just one." "Is it a boy or a girl?" "We don't know." Zara Sinclair smiled. "That old saying about craving sour for a boy and spicy for a girl isn't scientific. We'll find out for sure when the baby is born." The baby's gender wasn't important, as long as it was healthy. Grandma Wood hadn't expected to live to see Zara Sinclair pregnant. She remembered when Zara was just a tiny baby in her arms. Now she was a grown woman, married, and having a child of her own. Grandma Wood looked at Zara Sinclair's belly, recalling when Zara was first born. Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair had been unwilling to breastfeed her, and coupled with their deliberate neglect, the baby hadn't received proper nutrition. Her immune system was weak, she was small and frail, and even her cries were faint. "Looks like I need to prepare the red envelopes for my great-grandchild in advance." A sense of unease crept into Zara Sinclair's heart. "Why in advance? Can't you prepare them after the baby is born?" Meeting the worried gazes of the younger ones, Grandma Wood backtracked. "Oh, I was just saying." Her energy had been declining day by day. Ever since visiting the ancestral grave, she often dreamt of Arthur Sinclair. She dreamt he was standing before her, bowing his head in apology, saying he hadn't intentionally avoided visiting her in her dreams. Living long enough to see Zara married and pregnant was already incredibly fortunate. 5 years ago, she wouldn't have dared to imagine it. Now it was good. She could go down below and share the news properly with Arthur Sinclair. Grandma would change the subject. "I'll cook lunch today." Ethan Young chimed in. "Then I'll be your assistant." Grandma Wood's stamina wasn't what it used to be. She had to pause several times just to stir-fry one dish. After lunch, she went back to her room to rest, feeling for the red envelopes she kept under the mattress. She had prepared these before Zara Sinclair's wedding, making many of them. She counted carefully, 200, enough for the child's New Year's Day money every year. Now, with a great-grandchild on the way, she decided to make a few more. Grandma Wood took out a thick stack of cash and started filling the envelopes one by one. After just a few minutes, she felt tired, her vision blurring. She had to stop and rest for a moment, looking out the window and catching her breath. Besides the red envelopes, she had also recently started knitting again. It had been a long time since she last knitted. Her hands weren't as nimble, and she had forgotten some patterns, only able to manage the simplest stitches. But now, she felt she no longer had the energy to finish the sweater. She could only unravel it and make a simple scarf instead. Zara Sinclair decided to stay at Laurel Heights to spend more time with her grandmother. It was better than Pinecrest Rehabilitation Center. There were enough rooms, it was convenient to get around, and she could stay whenever she wanted. Are you worried about me? Zara Sinclair clung to her grandmother's side, linking her arm. I want to spend more time with you. And I want you to spend time with me too. Grandma, you know pregnant women can be quite sensitive and insecure. If you feel insecure, go find Ethan Young. This is the kind of security only you can give me. She hadn't forgotten Dr. Johnson's words. She had been on edge for the past 2 months. Her grandmother was 81 years old. She hoped she would live a long and healthy life. Long enough not only to see her get married and have children, but also to watch her great-grandchild grow up. After moving in, Zara Sinclair clung to her grandmother, wanting to sleep with her, just like when she was little, listening to her sing and tell stories, wanting to be coaxed to sleep. You're so grown up, still hiding in Grandma's arms like a child. Aren't you embarrassed? I only cling to you because I love you. Zara Sinclair kissed her grandmother's cheek, noticing the deepening lines on her face. Grandma would just lovingly stroke Zara's hair. Water has no constant form. Flowers eventually fade. We meet, but life is always filled with farewells. Life is a constant cycle of goodbyes and new encounters. There are no flowers that bloom forever, nor youth that never ages. When the time comes, the old grow older, those who must leave depart, ultimately becoming passengers swept away by time. Lying in bed, Grandma would gently patted Zara Sinclair's head and spoke of the past. Her memory hadn't been good lately. She often forgot what she was doing, but her memories of long ago remained vivid. Zara, I've been dreaming about your grandpa a lot recently. I miss him. At the mention of her grandpa, Zara Sinclair felt a sting in her nose and managed a choked "Mm. I'm already content to have lived this long. Zara, if I leave one day, don't be sad. Grandma will be watching over you from heaven." How could she not be sad? Grandma, I don't want you to go. Don't say such morbid things. I just got pregnant. Don't you want to see your great-grandchild? Grandma sighed without replying. More than the great-grandchild, she cared about Zara Sinclair. She wanted to see the baby too, but her body was already at the end of its strength. She couldn't force it. She had lived too long, too tired, too painfully, each breath a struggle, her chest aching constantly. The relentless daily pain had worn her down completely, but what she found most unbearable was her fading memory. She was terrified of forgetting the most important people. At her age, she was at peace with death, no longer finding it terrifying, only seeing it as a release, an acceptance of life's end. Death seemed to lurk in the shadows, dragging its giant scythe, approaching silently. Listening to her grandmother's sleeping breaths, Zara Sinclair found the sound as grating as fingernails on a chalkboard, jarring her mind and heart, tormenting her senses unbearably. Some things in life cannot be forced, especially life and death. Dependence and the inability to let go could also become a burden. In June, Grandma Wood was admitted to Seabreeze General Hospital. This time, Dr. Johnson issued a critical condition notice. Grandma would lay unconscious in a hospital bed for a day and a night. When she slowly regained awareness, she saw the worried faces of Zara Sinclair and Ethan Young. She smiled cheerfully, as always, saying, "Oh, I'm fine. I was just really tired, slept a bit long." She tried to lift her hand to wipe Zara Sinclair's tears, but couldn't manage to raise it. "Sorry to make you worry. You're going to be a mother yourself soon. Why are you still crying like a little kid?" She watched Zara Sinclair's mouth move, saying something, but couldn't hear clearly. Her sight and hearing were gradually failing. After Ethan Young helped her drink some water, Grandma would lay back for a while, then looked out the window. "I want to go home." "Okay, we'll take you home." This time, she heard clearly. Perhaps an old person's passing is destined from the start. As death neared, Grandma would become remarkably calm. The June weather was a bit hot, but thankfully there was a tree in the yard where she could sit in the sun. Grandma would ask Zara Sinclair to fetch the scarf from her bedroom. It just needed finishing touches. Her eyes could barely see anymore. Tears streamed down uncontrollably as she knitted, undoing stitches when she made a mistake. The yarn was a festive red, a color that complemented skin tones well. When she tired of knitting, she asked Ethan Young to bring out the photo albums. She turned the pages one by one. Among the yellowed photos were her wedding pictures and family portraits. She flipped through them slowly, murmuring as she went, "When I'm gone, bury me next to him. Use this photo for my funeral portrait. I promised Arthur Sinclair we'd use matching couples photos. Look, here's a picture of Zara Sinclair at 6 years old, and here she is starting elementary school, middle school, high school, going abroad. When your baby is born, I'm sure they'll be just as beautiful. The photos chronicled every important moment of Zara Sinclair's life. Don't be sad for me. I'm just going to meet my love. Death isn't the end. Being forgotten is. My memory is poor now. I'm always afraid I'll forget. Ethan Young, it's truly wonderful that you met Zara. When I'm gone, I'm entrusting her to your care. She's so strong-willed. She often forgets to take care of herself. Remind her to sleep when she stays up late. She's afraid of the dark and thunder. I used to hold her and comfort her until she fell asleep. Under the bed, I've put some red envelopes. There's one for you, one for Zara, one for Emily Young, and one for my great-grandchild who hasn't been born yet. I won't be able to spend Christmas season with you anymore. Remember to be happy every year. I don't like making things too sad, so on the day of the funeral, wear something nice. Try not to cry. I don't like chrysanthemums. I prefer lilies. There are dumplings I made in the fridge. Remember to eat them. They'll spoil if you leave them too long. Ethan Young agreed readily, his eyes already red. Grandma's hazy eyes were like a lamp wick flickering in the wind, dimming and brightening erratically. As death approaches, vision slowly fades. Grandma could no longer clearly see the people before her, only their outlines. The person on the left was Zara Sinclair, the one on the right, Ethan Young. The baby in Zara Sinclair's belly was over 3 months along, the pregnancy now stable. She had seen the ultrasound image. It looked like a little peanut. Zara Sinclair knelt on the ground, clutching her grandmother's legs, sobbing uncontrollably. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I didn't take good care of you. I wasn't there for you enough. I should have spent more time with you. If she hadn't gone abroad, if she had always stayed by her grandmother's side, maybe she would have lived a few more years." Zara Sinclair grasped her grandmother's hand, which was bluish-purple due to poor circulation. Grandma smiled. "Zara, you didn't disappoint your grandpa and me. You've grown up so well, become so outstanding. I'm very pleased with who you are now. You should be proud of yourself, too." Grandma took a breath and continued, "My greatest pride in this life is having you. Thank you for staying with me until the end." Zara Sinclair's eyes were bloodshot, tears flooding her face like a broken dam. She wanted to speak, had so much she wanted to share with her grandmother, but only a choked sob escaped, her chest aching fiercely. Grandma looked quietly into her eyes, her gaze gentle. A breeze rustled by, and she looked off into the distance. "I dreamt of your grandpa again last night. He said he'd come pick me up. Why is it taking so long? I haven't seen him yet. Your grandpa was always the unreliable one, never kept his word. Promised he'd live to 100 with me, but he left early. A few days ago, your grandpa came into my dream and apologized. He said he'd definitely be on time this time. He also said, cremation doesn't hurt. He knows I'm the most afraid of pain." Grandma looked up at the sky. "I heard, people become stars when they die. I don't want to be a star. I don't want to be too far from you all. Maybe it's better to become a butterfly." She paused, noticing a butterfly flying towards them from the distance, fluttering around her. "Zara, this is the scarf I knitted for you. Try it on." Choking back tears, Zara Sinclair took the scarf from her grandmother. The red scarf was long. Zara wrapped it around her neck several times. The hand-knitted scarf felt warm and comfortable. "Grandma, does it look nice?" Grandma smiled. "Beautiful. My granddaughter is so beautiful." She asked, "What time is it now?" Zara Sinclair checked the time. 11 in the morning. "I'd like dumplings for lunch." "Then we'll make dumplings for lunch today. I want to take a nap now," Zara Sinclair said in a hoarse voice. "Go ahead and sleep. We'll call you when they're ready." Her gentle words seemed to have a hypnotic effect. Grandma had a feeling she would sleep soundly today, undisturbed by pain. Grandma slowly close her eyes. In the final moments of her life, she seemed to see a door open before her. Arthur Sinclair, dressed in a suit, walked towards her. "Grandma I've come to get you." "What took you so long?" "You're Arthur. I'm 81 now. I'm so much older than you. Will you mind?" Tears slipped from the corners of Grandma Wood's eyes as they closed. She looked like she had simply fallen asleep. Zara Sinclair covered her grandmother with a blanket and gently tidied her white hair. There was still warmth left in her body. Combing her hair gave Zara the illusion that the old woman before her was still alive. If she were still alive, she would be handing her a tissue, saying, "You've cried your face into a mess." If she were still alive, she'd tease her and Ethan Young with a mischievous look. If she were still alive, she would make lots of dumplings, filling their bowls with all the lucky fortune dumplings, urging them to eat more, as if doing so could truly guarantee peace, health, and happiness. If she were still alive, When her great-grandchild was born, she would hold the baby just as she used to hold Zara, singing him that familiar song. On the high green mountain, the daylilies bloom. I'll pick one for my little girl, pin in your hair. If she were still alive, she would sit quietly on the sofa watching them play. She wouldn't say how much she missed you, but she would watch the home security camera feed over and over, flipping through old photo albums. Ethan Young supported Zara Sinclair's trembling body, gently wiping the tears from her face. Zara Sinclair said hoarsely, "Let's go make the dumplings." Ethan Young had never seen Zara Sinclair so vulnerable. His heart ached. He nodded. "Okay, let's make dumplings." Zara Sinclair forced a smile, but the expression on her face was more painful than tears. She spoke to the peacefully sleeping old woman. "Grandma, we're going to make dumplings now. You rest well. We'll come get you when they're ready." A pot of dumplings was cooked. Who knew if any of the familiar fortune dumplings were among them? Zara Sinclair carried out a bowl of dumplings and called for her grandmother to wake up. She remembered how, as a child, she'd throw tantrums and refuse to eat. Her grandmother would bring the food to her bedside, gently patting her back. "Sweetie, Grandma made your favorite dish today. Get up and eat quickly. It won't taste good cold. I also opened a can of yellow peaches and bought your favorite blueberries." Zara Sinclair held the steaming bowl of dumplings and called her grandmother's name many times, but received no response. She knew her grandmother wouldn't wake up again. She just couldn't admit it. She sat on a nearby stool, leaning against her grandmother, and ate the dumplings in her bowl, one by one. Grandma always said wasting food was shameful, so she had to finish them. With every dumpling she ate, memories of her grandmother flooded her mind. Grandma knitting all sorts of sweaters, turning clothes that no longer fit into pretty dresses for her. Grandma holding her hand, teaching her to read. Buying her the prettiest backpack when she started school, tying her red scarf. The umbrella tilted towards her on rainy days. When facing her parents' favoritism, Grandma standing up for her without hesitation, firmly believing in her no matter the accusations. She was incredibly lucky. Of the 15 dumplings in the bowl, she ate 8 fortune dumplings. The fortune dumplings she used to find too cloying to swallow now felt like something she could never get enough of, because she would never get to eat dumplings like this again. The taste in her mouth was both salty from tears and sweet from the dumplings. Ethan Young took the bowl from her hands. "Don't eat anymore." Zara Sinclair looked up at him, then suddenly threw her arms around his waist, burying her face in his chest. She cried out loud, her voice moving from choked sobs to hoarse gasps. She cried with such wrenching grief, full of sorrow, like a small child left waiting after school, whose parents never came. "Grandma's gone. I don't have a grandmother anymore." She still wanted her grandmother to hold her, but her hands would never lift again. She still wanted to hear her grandmother sing to her, but her lips were sealed tight. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are the constants of human life. No one can change them. Life is a process filled with the endless pain of letting go, constantly experiencing distance and separation. One by one, they are sent off from the earth. One by one, they are welcomed in heaven. Eventually, there will be a reunion. Ethan Young had experienced such a loss when he was 6 years old. He understood Zara Sinclair's feelings all too well. The departure of a loved one isn't a passing storm, but a landscape left in ruins, a void that no one else can fill. All he could do was hold Zara Sinclair and tell her, "Grandma hasn't left. She's just gone ahead to the next life to prepare a new home for you, just like she came here first in this life." Zara Sinclair looked at her grandmother, sleeping peacefully in the rocking chair. At some point, her memory held only the image of her grandmother as an old woman. It was as if she had never been young, as if she had been born to be her grandmother, just as she loved her so much, just as the first word she uttered as a baby had been grandma. Being pregnant, Zara Sinclair couldn't overexert herself. Ethan Young handled almost all the funeral arrangements. Grandma Wood's death brought many people together. Because Grandma disliked chrysanthemums, those who came to pay their respects brought bouquets of lilies. There were tears at the service, but Zara Sinclair tried hard to maintain a smile. There was no white. It felt less like a funeral and more like a celebration of life. Zara Sinclair watched as the grandmother, who raised her, ultimately became a small wooden box. Grandma loved beauty, so the urn chosen was a mother-of-pearl inlaid box, iridescent and lovely under the light. In the past, her grandmother had carried her to bed like this. Now, she carried her grandmother like this to her final resting place. The headstone had already been engraved. The funeral portrait used was the one Grandma had chosen. The two headstones stood side by side, truly looking like a couple's photo. "Grandpa, you take care of Grandma down there. I'm not afraid of ghosts. You can come visit me often, come into my dreams. When your great-grandchild is born, I'll bring him to visit you. Ethan Young lit incense and candles, scattering joss paper. Thin wisps of smoke curled upwards. 3 or 4 months had vanished in a blink, and summer had rushed in again. In the woods, the cicadas screamed relentlessly, heralding both their new lives and their imminent deaths. The dumplings left here last time had vanished, eaten by who knows what. Nothing remained but an empty paper box. The weeds he'd pulled had grown back. Ethan Young had brought shears and cleared them away once more. After they paid their respects, he helped Sarah Sinclair down the mountain, listening to her speak on the way. "Actually, I don't remember Arthur Sinclair very well," she said. "I was only 6 when he died, just started elementary school. A lot of the advice he gave me went over my head." Her strongest memory of Arthur Sinclair was seeing him lying in his hospital bed. Arthur Sinclair loved to keep a diary. After he got sick, the pain was so bad he couldn't even hold a pen. After I grew up and he had passed away, Grandma would read his diaries to me like stories. I learned so much from his diaries. Through it all, it felt as if Arthur Sinclair had never really left, as if he'd always been by her side. Ethan Young said, "We should record more of our lives too." Speaking of which, Ethan Young and Arthur Sinclair had something in common. They both liked documenting life. Arthur Sinclair preferred writing in a diary, while Ethan Young liked recording videos with captions. Driving home, they were surprised to find the gardenia on the balcony had bloomed. White blossoms unfurled in the sunlight, their fragrance noticeable even before they stepped onto the balcony. It bloomed. Sarah Sinclair ran inside, looking at the gardenia on the shelf. She'd never had much luck keeping plants alive, often forgetting to water them or watering them too much. The flowers in their home were usually delivered from a florist, with Mrs. Ward changing the water daily, keeping them fresh for 5 or 6 days. Gardenias in the mountains sometimes bloomed as early as March, flowering several times a year. But the one at home hadn't shown any signs of life. When Grandma Wood was home, she would often tend to the household plants, waiting eagerly to take pictures of the blooms for her Instagram. From somewhere, 2 butterflies had flown in and were circling the gardenia. They lived on a high floor. How had the butterflies gotten in? If science couldn't explain it, perhaps love could. They say people become stars when they die. I don't want to be a star. I don't want to be so far away from you all. Maybe I'll become a butterfly instead. Watching the 2 butterflies, Sarah Sinclair turned and threw her arms around Ethan Young, sobbing uncontrollably into his chest. Often, the deepest grief doesn't hit immediately after a loved one passes away. Grandma Wood's things were still around the house. The clothes she wore, the dishes she used, the dumplings she'd made in the freezer, the rocking chair she often napped in, the blanket left on the sofa. Seeing these things, it always felt like she was still there, that she hadn't really left. But today, seeing the gardenia bloom, Sarah Sinclair's first instinct was to share it with Grandma Wood. In that instant, the composure she'd maintained for days crumbled like ruins. Tears streamed down her face, soaking Ethan Young's shirt. If Grandma Wood were still here, she would have been so happy to see the gardenia. That evening, Ethan Young made dumplings and a few side dishes. The sour soup dumplings were exactly to Sarah Sinclair's taste. Tasting the filling, she thought of Grandma Wood again and looked up, meeting Ethan Young's gaze. Ethan Young asked, "Does it taste right?" I try to replicate it. Sarah Sinclair loved Grandma Wood's dumplings. To preserve that flavor for her, Ethan Young had been practicing constantly, not only recreating the filling, but also learning Grandma Wood's specific folding techniques. The bowl held an assortment of differently shaped dumplings. Sarah Sinclair took a bite and got a sweet one. Ethan Young immediately said, "You got the only fortune dumpling. Good luck, you're blessed." His words made Sarah Sinclair smile through her tears, blinking them back. "They taste just like Grandma Wood's. They're delicious." Ethan Young breathed a sigh of relief at her answer. "Next time we visit Grandpa and Grandma, we'll bring plenty of dumplings." Sarah Sinclair looked at the man before her, simply feeling grateful he was there. Sarah Sinclair's belly grew bigger each day. In the ultrasound photos, the baby's features were gradually becoming distinct. The baby was remarkably calm, rarely causing much fuss. Every day when Ethan Young came home, he would talk to Sarah Sinclair's belly and kiss it. Affected by pregnancy hormones, Sarah Sinclair's moods fluctuated, sometimes low, sometimes elated. One moment she'd be anxious, the next Ethan Young's kisses would leave her feeling dizzy and flustered. After getting through the first 4 months, Sarah Sinclair's appetite stabilized, and she could eat normally without feeling nauseous. Knowing Sarah Sinclair preferred his cooking, Ethan Young made sure to come home on time every day to make dinner. Afterwards, they would take walks outside. At home, Ethan Young was also affectionately attentive to Sarah Sinclair's needs. Speaking of which, this brought up the topic of prenatal bonding. A fetus develops hearing around 6 to 7 months. When faced with its parents' displays of affection, the baby in the womb seemed to get excited too, impossible to ignore. Worried about hurting Sarah Sinclair, Ethan Young was always gentle and restrained. Pregnancy added a certain allure to Sarah Sinclair. Her aura changed, softening from the inside out, radiating a maternal glow. Her natural scent slowly took on a milky sweetness. Under Ethan Young's attentive care, Sarah Sinclair had a relatively easy pregnancy. Coupled with her good constitution, she didn't develop any stretch marks. Sarah Sinclair had never paid much attention to her stomach before, but now she found herself glancing at it several times a day, posing in front of the mirror, trying to discern any tiny sign of the little one developing inside. Winter arrived, and the weather grew colder. Sarah Sinclair wore the red scarf Grandma would have knitted for her in a thick, puffy down jacket, bundled up so much she looked like a walking dumpling, moving rather clumsily. The due date was just over a month away. The preparations and paperwork for childbirth were complex. As a first-time father, Ethan Young learned much of it online. Figuring more knowledge couldn't hurt. An actress he worked with, an experienced mother of two, offered her help, which saved them a lot of trouble. It was the Lunar New Year season again. This year, their family went from 4 people to 3. The preparations were the same as last year, getting New Year's goods, making dumplings, putting up festive couplets. After watching the New Year's gala for a while, Sarah Sinclair felt sleepy. Ethan Young carefully carried her to bed, placed a stuffed animal under her belly for support, and gently massaged her lower back and shoulders. Sarah Sinclair hummed contentedly and drifted off to sleep. Before dawn broke, she was woken by the pain of contractions. Ethan Young took out his iPhone to time them and handed her the fetal monitor. Realizing the contractions were regular, Ethan Young immediately grabbed their hospital bag. Ethan Young had prepared everything long ago, so Sarah Sinclair didn't need to worry. While Sarah Sinclair was still getting dressed, Ethan Young had already put the suitcase in the car trunk. When he came back inside, Sarah Sinclair said she needed to use the restroom. Just as she stood up from the toilet, her water broke. The baby was coming early. Even Ethan Young, who had faced life and death situations, couldn't help feeling flustered in this moment. He forced himself to calm down. Giving birth on Lunar New Year's Day, and, at home, it was just him and Emily Young with Sarah. Ethan Young carried Sarah Sinclair downstairs, while Emily Young followed behind with the bag. Sarah Sinclair's face was pale. By the time they reached Seabreeze General Hospital, she had bitten her lower lip hard enough to leave a mark. After a series of checks, Dr. Johnson said she could have a vaginal delivery. After getting an epidural, Sarah Sinclair was wheeled into the delivery room. Ethan Young, dressed in sterile scrubs, followed close behind. Ethan Young had once done a labor simulation at Seabreeze General Hospital and knew how painful it could be. He thought that after this one, he wouldn't want Sarah Sinclair to go through it again. The pain brought tears to Sarah Sinclair's eyes, and sweat dripped down her face. Still, she remained relatively calm, carefully listening to Dr. Johnson's instructions, focusing on breathing and pushing, feeling a downward pressure. Sarah Sinclair first felt her belly suddenly lighten, and then she heard the baby's cry, faint like a chick's chirp. Relief washed over Sarah Sinclair. Through blurry eyes, she saw Ethan Young, his own eyes red. Dr. Johnson announced, "It's a girl. Congratulations." Ethan Young grasped her hand, wiped the sweat and tears from her face, cupped her cheeks, and pressed his forehead against hers. His voice trembled. "Honey, you worked so hard. Thank you. I'm sorry." Seeing Sarah Sinclair so weak, he wished he could take her pain onto himself. The baby was born healthy with a normal weight. They named her Claire Young, nicknamed Claire. Born on the first day of the Lunar New Year, an auspicious day. Sarah Sinclair rasped, "Bring the baby here. Let me see her." Ethan Young took the baby from the nurse. Before this moment, he had watched parenting videos, consulted experienced parents, and even practiced holding a doll at home to get the posture right. But when he actually held his child, his mind went blank. All the knowledge and techniques he thought he had memorized instantly vanished. Right then, Ethan Young was like a novice actor making his stage debut, completely flustered, his hands trembling slightly. He didn't know how to hold the baby comfortably. His body was stiff as a board, terrified he'd accidentally hurt her. Hearing her cries made Ethan Young's heart melt. He carefully carried the baby over to Zara Sinclair so she could see. Newborns aren't exactly beautiful, covered in vernix with tiny, wrinkled faces. It was impossible to tell who she looked like yet. Nearby, Dr. Johnson said, "What a beautiful baby. I've delivered so many, and this is definitely one of the prettiest I've ever seen." With parents this attractive, the baby's genes were bound to be good. She was starting life at the top. Zara Sinclair was wheeled out of the delivery room. Back in her room, she leaned against the bed, holding the baby. Claire wasn't crying now, just nestled quietly in her arms, cheek against her chest, eyes closed. Zara Sinclair gazed at the baby's wrinkled face and gently nuzzled it with her own. Ethan Young stood at the door, listening carefully to the doctor's instructions. When he glanced back, he happened to see this tender moment. His heart felt soft and warm, and he longed to go in and hold them both. Half an hour later, Claire had her first taste of milk. After she'd eaten her fill, Ethan Young took her. He stroked her tiny palm. As if sensing her father's love, little Claire grasped his finger tightly. Ethan Young felt his heart clench, an indescribable feeling washing over him. All his tension and stress vanished in that instant. A smile spread unconsciously across his face as he whispered softly, "Claire is safe. Welcome to the world, baby girl." Ethan Young seemed more nervous about the birth than Zara Sinclair herself. When Zara moved into the postpartum care center, he went with her. The slightest noise would jolt him awake, and he ended up holding the baby more often than the postpartum nanny. Not only that, but he'd heard that new mothers could be emotionally sensitive and prone to postpartum depression. He specifically consulted a psychologist for advice on how to support Zara Sinclair verbally, praising her and telling her he loved her every day. It got to the point where Zara Sinclair was getting a little exasperated. She hadn't showered or washed her hair in days, and she couldn't fathom how Ethan Young could hold her and sincerely tell her she smelled wonderful. Zara Sinclair was glowing, while Ethan Young looked increasingly haggard. You'd almost think he was the one who'd given birth. Seeing the dark circles under Ethan Young's eyes, Zara Sinclair gently hugged him. "Boss, aren't you being a little too tense?" "Am I? I don't think so." Afraid of worrying her, Ethan Young wouldn't admit it. Zara Sinclair kissed his cheek. "Don't be stressed. We have a nanny. She can take good care of Claire. You need to get in bed and rest properly. You have to take care of yourself so you can take better care of us." With gentle firmness, Zara Sinclair pulled him towards the bed. "You have to sleep with me tonight. I might roll over and hurt you. I had a natural birth, not a C-section. There's no incision. How could you hurt me?" Zara Sinclair pouted, her brow furrowed, as if about to cry. "Or, do you find me repulsive now that I've had the baby? Do you think I smell bad? Were you lying all those times you said I smelled good?" "Of course not. To prove you're telling the truth and not lying, get into bed right now." "Okay." Ethan Young relented. "Let me change." He took off his clothes and laid down beside Zara Sinclair, initially keeping some distance. "Why are you so far away? Come here and hold me." Ethan Young scooted closer, carefully wrapping his arms around Zara Sinclair. She found a comfortable position. Ethan hadn't slept beside her for the past few days, and she hadn't slept well either, missing his presence. Now, lying in his familiar embrace, she instantly relaxed. Breathing in Zara Sinclair's milky scent and listening to her steady breathing, Ethan Young's eyelids grew heavy. He closed his eyes and fell asleep almost immediately, sleeping soundly through the night. During the day, Zara Sinclair breastfed, expressing and storing any extra milk. At night, the postpartum nanny took care of the baby. Claire was a good baby, never crying loudly. When hungry, she'd just whimper softly and the nanny would feed her. Her appearance changed daily, her skin becoming fair and smooth. She inherited her parents' delicate features, with big, sparkling eyes, long, curly lashes, and naturally wavy hair. Everyone who saw her adored her. Emily Young also came to Seabreeze General Hospital every day to see her little niece. She even drew lots of four-panel comics about her, chronicling her growth, and posted them online, where many people enjoyed them. Ethan Young posted a video. New Year's Day, Ethan Young and Zara Sinclair welcomed their first child. Mother and daughter are doing well. Her full name is Claire Young, nicknamed Claire. The video on Instagram received thousands of likes, with comments pouring in congratulations. The news spread online and became a trending topic. "I can't even imagine how gorgeous Claire must be. Congratulations on the arrival of Queen Claire. I've never seen such a beautiful newborn. Crying. Grow up quickly." Good news seemed to come one after another recently. First, Ethan Young was blessed with a daughter. Second, the first movie produced by Ethan Young's Sinclair Media Group after its establishment was released during the Christmas season and achieved outstanding results, topping the box office with $880 million. It wasn't just the highest-grossing film of the year, but also the highest-grossing domestic film in history. And eager to resume intimacy soon, Zara Sinclair exercised diligently and actively followed her recovery training. Finally, 2 months later, after a checkup at Seabreeze General Hospital, Dr. Johnson told her they could be intimate again. That evening, Zara Sinclair booked a suite at the Lux Hotel. She bought a leather skirt, put on makeup, and even lit some scented candles to create a wonderful atmosphere. When Ethan Young pushed the door open, she dangled a leather strap at her hand. "Boss, tonight we're role-playing. Let's call it. The domineering officer falls for the charming young wife." "Like it. My name is Claire Young, and I'm 6 years old. My dad, Ethan Young, picked my name. He used to be a great actor, and he still is. But before, he acted for lots of people, and now he acts just for Mom. Don't let my dad fool you. He might seem serious outside, but at home, Mom has him wrapped around her finger. He'll do anything she asks. Mom's favorite hobby is watching Dad change into his costumes. These costumes include all sorts of suits, vests, police uniforms, lab coats, school uniforms. There are also some outfits I don't recognize, and I have no idea how you'd wear them. Dad's never worn those in front of me. Dad can pull off every single outfit perfectly. One night, I was sleeping with Mom. Dad, who had just gotten home from work, snuck into Mom's room. He whispered, "Ma'am, staying up so late? Waiting for your boss. Try not to make any noise later." Mom blushed and covered Dad's mouth. "Stop teasing. Claire's right here. I didn't have to be there. I could have hidden under the bed." "Hold on. I'll take her out first," Dad said. He scooped me up, quickly carried me to the kids' room next door, and with a click of the door, all the sounds were shut out. I'm only 6 years old, and I love sleeping with Mom. She smells sweet and nice, and most importantly, she sings me songs and tells me stories. I don't like those fairy tales. Instead of hearing about princesses marrying princes, I prefer watching the home videos Dad records. Dad and I have argued countless times about this sleeping arrangement. Dad says that big girls need to learn to sleep by themselves. Well, he's so big. Why does he still cling to Mom when he sleeps? He should be embarrassed. I told Dad he's clingy. Dad just laughed and said, "It's perfectly natural for a boss to stick close to his wife. You'll understand when you're older." I protested. "I'm going to go find a boss right now." Dad's face immediately soured. Mom tapped my nose and said, "It's not that Daddy loves clinging to Mommy. It's that Mommy can't bear to be without Daddy. I can't bear to be without Dad either. My dad is the best dad in the world. He might not be Superman, but he could do anything for me. He makes the vegetables I hate taste delicious. He explains boring stuff, so it's easy to understand, and even teaches me how to use what I learn. He taught me how to protect myself, love myself, respect myself, and be strong. He also taught me how to be kind to others. People say daughters keep their parents warm like a little padded jacket, but I want to be more like their bulletproof vest. I live in a happy family. My dad loves my mom very much, and I try to love Mom just like Dad does. When Dad gets up early, he leaves a flower on Mom's bedside table and gives her a kiss on the forehead. He loves kissing Mom. He kisses her when he leaves for work and when he comes home. When I say I want kisses too, Dad covers my eyes. People outside say my dad is a big deal, but Mom can handle him easily. If Mom craves something Dad cooks, he'll come home and make it for her, no matter how busy he is. Sometimes Dad comes home late, and Mom has fallen asleep waiting for him on the sofa. He'll carry her like a princess, comforting her just like he comforts me. My dad isn't one for sweet words, but he shows his love through actions. When he's out and sees a beautiful view, he shares it with Mom right away. If he finds a pretty rock or shell, he brings it back for her, kind of like a golden retriever bringing back a stick after a walk. Dad's bag is always full of these random treasures. Mom never acts unimpressed. She even carefully saves everything he collects. I asked Mom, "Don't you think Dad is a little childish sometimes?" Mom said, "That just shows we're taking good care of him." Mom told me that Dad had to support his family when he was very young. Hardship forced him to grow up fast, to become mature too soon. There's a line in The Little Prince. All grown-ups were once children, but only few of them remember it. Mom is one of the few who remembers. With lots and lots of love, she helped Dad find the childishness he'd lost. It's like the dawn finally breaking after a long, dark night. Soon it was time for me to start elementary school. On registration day, a woman suddenly rushed over, shouting my dad's name. "Ethan Young, I was wrong. I'm so sorry." The woman looked much older than Mom. She had short hair and was wearing a dress, even though it was already autumn. Up close, I could see streaks of white in her hair. Her skin was rough, and she had wrinkles. She spread her arms to block our car. She looked at me, a flicker of shock in her eyes. After a moment, she started crying and laughing at the same time. "Your daughter." She'd gotten so big. Ethan Young, I've spent every day in prison repenting. I'm so sorry I didn't consider your feelings 5 years ago, that I caused you pain you shouldn't have endured. I truly regret it. I wish I could do something, anything, to make up for the harm I caused, to beg for your forgiveness. I'd never seen this woman before, and Mom and Dad had never mentioned her. But my usually gentle dad's face suddenly turned cold. There's no need. If you're truly repentant, then stay away from us from now on. Are you still angry with me? How about my punishment? 7 years in prison, and now I have stomach cancer. The person I wronged most in my life is you. I want to make it up to you. I've learned a lot. I can sew, clean, cook. Let me work for you as a maid, or even just do odd jobs on your film sets. Serena Sinclair, Dad said, I'm not a kind man, so I hope karma hits you hard. But I'm not vicious either, so whether it does or not, don't bother telling me. I pressed my face against the car window and watched as bodyguards restrained the woman. She cried and screamed behind us, her already plain face twisting into ugliness. She was yelling her lungs out, probably begging Dad to come back. I asked Dad, who was that? No one important. Dad said, a late apology and realization aren't worthy of forgiveness. Later, I learned from Mom that the woman, Serena Sinclair, was my aunt. She went to prison for doing something bad, breaking the law. Mom said apologizing is the duty of the one who caused harm, but forgiving is the right of the victim. You can't just regret things carelessly. We have to bear the consequences of every decision we make. The next time I heard the name Serena Sinclair, it was because she'd been sent abroad. There was no news after that. Maybe she went for treatment. Maybe she didn't get better. Anything's possible. I didn't bother thinking about it much. I had too much homework anyway. My birthday happened to be on New Year's Day. Mom, Dad, and Aunt Emily Young were home. We had dumplings for breakfast. I could eat 8 dumplings. My very first bite was a lucky dumpling with sugar inside. I held it up proudly. Mom, Dad, look, I got the lucky dumpling on my first try. You know what that means? It means I'll have good luck this year and get perfect scores on my tests. Mom got the next lucky dumpling. She had lots in her bowl and ended up sharing them with Dad. Why didn't she eat more of such lucky dumplings? Mom said good fortune is only real fortune when it's shared. Dad asked me, what do you want for your birthday present? I thought about it and answered, can I get a dog? Of course, Dad said. But if you get a dog, you have to be responsible for it. You have to treat it like family, take care of it, and you can't just get tired of it. You have to be there as it grows up and stay with it until it gets old. I nodded and promised. Dad didn't give me a dog right away. Instead, he bought me a guide on how to raise one. Only after I had memorized it did he agree to let me have a dog. So, in the new year, our family gained a new member, a golden retriever named Nyin. On the day we visited the ancestors' graves, the 4 of us went back to the family estate to pay respects. Dad was in charge of burning joss paper, and Mom placed offerings of dumplings. My job was to kneel and ask my great-grandfather, great-grandmother, and Grandpa up in heaven to bless us. Bless Mom and Dad with good health. Bless Aunt Emily Young so she doesn't get sick. Bless me with perfect test scores. And bless our puppy Nyin to grow up safe and sound. For the wishes of 3 people and 1 dog, I kowtowed 12 times, keeping my eyes closed and wishing for a long time. Wishes aren't hard for me, because Mom and Dad always help make mine come true. I can't even think of any bigger wishes. The gardenias in the mountains bloom earlier than the ones at home. Mrs. Ward told me Dad planted the gardenias in our yard for Mom. At first, there were only 10 pots, but he kept planting more until they grew into gardenia trees. I pointed to the gardenias swaying in the breeze on the hillside. Mom, look, gardenias, the flowers with your name, and butterflies. Nyin found a bird's nest somewhere and ran ahead with it in his mouth. I chased after him while Mom and Dad held hands, telling me to run carefully. That year, the flowers bloomed perfectly, the sun was gentle, the wind romantic. And Nyin and Claire lived up to that beautiful time together. The end.